yeah. Dancing on my own, see if you can follow. Got me feeling alive. Watch me go, lose control, is this real? All I feel, break the signs, every time it's real, I do what I want. 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 Hear me now, I do what I want. Are you ready now? 'Cause it won't be easy. Only get what you work for. Gotta go all out whenever you see me. Don't be wasting my time. Watch me go, lose control, is this real? All I feel, break the signs, every time let's be real, be real, be real. I do what I want. 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 Hear me now. Watch me go, lose control, is this real? All I feel, break the signs, every time let's be real, be real, be real. I do what I want. I do what I want.
Good morning. What's new, pussycat?
Thought that you should know I've been going solo. Want my love, baby, earn it. Yeah, dancing on my own, see if you can follow. Got me feeling alive. Watch me go, lose control, is this real? All I feel, break the signs, every time let's be real, be real, be real. I do what I want. 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 Hear me now, I do what I want. Are you ready now? 'Cause it won't be easy. Only get what you work for. Gotta go all out whenever you see me. Don't be wasting my time. Watch me go, lose control, is this real? All I feel, break the signs, every time let's be real, be real, be real. I do what I want. 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 Hear me now. Watch me go, lose control, is this real? All I feel, break the signs, every time let's be real, be real, be real. I do what I want. I do what I want.
Good morning. What's new, pussycat?
I
Hi, Pussycats. Good afternoon. How are you? Y'all, I was so caught up watching this hearing. Well, at first I was in my car, and I'm not gonna do the big, preamble that I usually do, only slightly shorter typically than the preamble to the Constitution. We're gonna get right into this. And I am going to play the Senate hearing for the Secret Service Director, Kimberly Cheadle, from the beginning with my commentary. I wasn't planning on going live today, you guys. I had a doctor's appointment this morning and I'm starting to cough again. So please pardon me if I start hacking. I took a hit off the albuterol inhaler before I came in here. So hopefully that won't happen. But I got home from the doctor. I listened to this for about 45 minutes in the car. I was screaming back at this dumb bitch. Oh God, did I say that? Yeah. This isn't going to be like the coverage on C-SPAN, okay? Even though we're going to watch it on C-SPAN. Yes, I just realized I did not, because I didn't plan on coming in here and I just got home not too long ago. I didn't put on any eye makeup. Well, I have on a little bit of shadow, but no liner. Oh, well. And I'm wearing my Lululemons because I'm a poser. I don't actually go to the gym. I just like to dress like I do. That's my runaround uniform. Lululemon's tank top. But my superpower. So have no fear. I did find a coordinating pair of, these are Saint Laurent wedges to wear while I don't think I'm going to be able to flay this woman quite as well as Representative Jim Jordan did. Oh God, he flayed that bitch alive. In full disclosure, I am a Republican. I voted for Trump before. I'm going to vote for him again. Because I was listening to this in the car, I think for the most part, the small bit that I heard, I was very pleasantly surprised to hear that everyone was taking not everyone, but the majority of what I heard, whether Republican or Democrat, were both taking a very strong stance and attitude with Kimberly Cheadle. Useless. I mean, this woman, I'm fucking embarrassed for her. Okay. She is the equivalent of Bullhorn Betty if Bullhorn Betty actually was smart enough and didn't have fucking arrest history a mile long to serve in government. Although I don't know. My husband did say you can be a convicted felon. He said you can actually be the president and be in jail. I said, oh my goodness, that seems like a small oversight by the founding fathers. But all right, let's get right into this. I'm going to try and hello to anybody coming in. I don't want to delay us too long. So typically I like to say hi to everybody individually, but I really want to just get right into this. So to anyone coming in, to anyone who comes in as we're watching this, thank you. I appreciate you. And just a couple little facts that I looked up about Kimberly Cheadle, the acting director of the Secret Service. I don't know how much longer she will hold that position. If she has anything to say about it, well, she has no intention of leaving. Wow. Talk about no self-awareness. I see a couple new names. Hello, welcome. This is not my typical wheelhouse, you all, but I am so excited to get to use my dragon skills on somebody other than the typical YouTube fucking idiot flunkies. Okay. The Secret Service falls under the purview. Their parent department is the Department of Homeland Security. Cheadle is a 2022 Biden appointee. She's also a big fan of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. More on that. Oh, trust me, that it won't take long for me to start opining on that. Her yearly salary is $280,000. And I think okay. Yep, that's all I want to say right now about her. All right, let's get right into this. God, my voice is already starting to go, which is not a good thing. I've got this queued up. Let me just and y'all let me know. Do you want to hear in the very beginning? There is a few of the House members make opening statements. Her dumbass also makes opening statements. Do you all want to hear those? I can tell you as far as hers goes, you're basically going to hear everything she says in her opening statement. You are going to hear repeatedly throughout this thing. So if you want to hear them, the opening statements, put a 1. If not, we can save a little bit of time and we can just get right down to brass tacks. Although I have to say, I was the House members, theirs was short and sweet, to the point, and much in line with my thinking. Okay, I don't think it looks like y'all don't care about that, so I've got it queued up. Let me get to the part where they actually start testimony, questioning. Okay, we're there. All I can say is I'm very pleased to hear that from what I've heard so far, there is wide condemnation for her ridiculous failures across party lines, it seems. I did hear one or two, like, oh God, one that was like, ma'am, do you know why we're here today? You'll know when we get to her. Okay. Oh, here we go. We're going to start off with a bang. Okay. I got to back it up just a little bit. A little bit more. Yeah, this woman is infuriating. I've watched many Senate hearings over the years, and just like I knew she was going to do last night, I told my husband, I said, you know exactly what she's going to do. She's going to do what they all do. She is going to hide behind the following. I'm sorry, that's an ongoing investigation right now, and I can't comment on that. Bitch, we pay your salary. And as far as I'm concerned, you're grossly overpaid. All right, I think I got us queued up to the first. Oh, give me just another. Oh, I guess. Oh, we do have one more. Hold on. I thought. Okay. I believe this is just a little bit further back where it starts, but it doesn't matter because we're going to hear many questions and non-answers in this scene as this goes on. Let me share. Y'all know I'm notorious for I noticed I did that the other day. I was showing you guys a video that I forgot to show you. I was just commenting on it. Okay. Here we go.
Security failures on the day of the attempted assassination and leading up to that day. Let's start with the building that the shooter used to shoot President Trump from. At any point Saturday, did the Secret Service have an agent on top of that roof?
Sir, I'm sure, as you can imagine, that we are just 9 days out from this
Oh, here we go. We're off with a bang.
Incident,
9
and there's
days.
still an ongoing investigation. And so I want to make sure that any
that.
information that we are providing
So,
to you
so,
is
so you
factual.
can't, okay.
No, it's not that she can't. It's that she won't. That is an excuse.
Why did the Secret Service
Oh,
not?
and I think I missed this part, but please bear in mind, she did not. I don't know. I think Jim Jordan might go over this, but she is not appearing here willingly or voluntarily. She had to be subpoenaed. And even after the subpoena was issued, the Department of Homeland Security asked for delay after delay. And I'm so happy to see, for perhaps the first time ever in my recent memory, that Republicans and Democrats came together and said, fuck you, get your ass in the hot seat, and you're going to answer some questions. Or, not answer some questions. Like she's doing, what the hell did I just do? Oh, son of a bitch. Sorry. Let's try this again. Please tell me it stayed where I had it queued up.
It's time to
Oh,
feed
of
the
course
dogs
not.
real food, not highly processed pellets. The farmer's dog is fresh.
Ability to answer
Damn it.
questions
I'm sorry.
is solely
you guys.
reflect.
Ooh, back her up. Back her up. Oh, actually, you know what? I think he might have made the remarks I just made.
Today's witness, Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle, is here under subpoena to answer questions about how the agency failed President Trump and the victims who attended the
Oh,
rally
let me count the
in
ways.
Butler, Pennsylvania. It is my firm belief, Director Cheadle, that you should resign. However, in complete defiance, Director
I was
Cheadle has
gonna say.
maintained she will not tender her resignation. Therefore, she will answer questions
You
today
know
from-
what, Miss Cheadle? You might want to slow your roll on that, because I do believe the sitting president asserted the same thing. And my goodness, look where we are now. He's decided to drop out of the race.
members of this committee seeking to provide
And you ain't the
clarity to the
president,
American
babe.
people about how these events were allowed to transpire. We will ask these questions because the Secret Service and its parent agency, the Department of Homeland Security, have been unwilling to provide answers to the
Oh, my
American people.
goodness. Shocking.
DHS has sought to push this hearing to a different time. Secret Service has suggested the hearing occur without media presence,
My goodness. I wonder why that would be.
and both agencies have provided only shallow explanations to Congress about what happened on July 13th.
And don't forget the American public who pays her salary. Yeah.
Indeed,
Us, the little people.
DHS and Secret Service's lack of communication with the Oversight Committee required me to issue a subpoena compelling Director Cheadle
Okay.
to attend today, and still DHS requested more time to prepare.
Denied.
It shouldn't take this much time or preparation, Director Cheadle, to tell the truth and to be transparent with the American people.
Exactly. Why is that? It's not hard to be transparent. I do understand there are certain things that obviously are classified, et cetera, that she legitimately cannot discuss. But you're going to see this woman will not answer a simple question, yes or no. And why do you need? She knows she has plenty of information to, if she wanted to be at least semi-transparent. I think she needed more time to prepare. You can be sure they did a mock hearing. And maybe she didn't do so well on it.
I am thankful to the ranking member, Mr. Raskin, for joining me and insisting that Director Cheadle appear today. God knows the ranking member and I disagree on many things, but that does not matter today. The safety of Secret Service protectees is not based on their political affiliation. And the bottom line is that under Director Cheadle's leadership,
sure
we
about that?
question whether anyone is safe. Not President Biden, not the First Lady, not the White House.
Well, I'd say in light of recent events, they're probably safer than Donald Trump.
And certainly not the presidential candidates. The July 13th assassination attempt is one of the darkest days in American political history. It represents
And that's true. This was almost right up there with Kennedy.
the ugliest parts of what American politics has become. hatred of each other.
Make
and
no
a dangerous
mistake, politics is the most filthy business on earth.
turn to extremism. Before we were Republicans or Democrats, we are Americans. If we
Mhm.
place our political affiliations
Yeah.
above our duty
Well,
and love of
that's how
country,
it's
we
supposed
cannot
to be.
maintain a country. We must ensure our republic is strong. And our
Partisan
republic
politics
cannot
have
be
become
strong when our
so
leadership,
toxic
our elections,
that
our
nothing gets done
institutions, and our candidates are
because
threatened.
all they do is argue like children on a playground, and it's about personal egos and all the people that they are beholden to who help them get where they are. Yeah, their constituents come last.
By extremism and violence. Today, Director Cheadle will answer questions about why she deserves to continue to play a critical role in preserving this
Well, that's
country's
the idea, but
safety
that's
and,
not
at the very
so much
least,
how it's
what
gone
led
thus
to the
far.
catastrophic, deadly events on July 13th in Butler,
She's got
Pennsylvania.
a decent game face
Again,
on.
I do
I
not
will
believe Director
say
Cheadle deserves to
she
maintain her position as head of the
does
Secret
sit there
Service,
like
but
just
members of the American
stoic
people
like
will
a
make
brick
their own
wall.
decisions based on her answers today. I urge Director Cheadle to be
I don't think that she thinks this hearing and what the American public thinks has any bearing on whether or not she keeps her job. That is how arrogant and delusional a lot of these people are.
transparent and forthcoming in her testimony today. Americans deserve no less.
Absolutely.
We have a duty to find out how this happened
Yes, you
and to
do.
ensure it never happens again. I now yield to Ranking Member Raskin for his opening statement.
Thank you kindly, Chairman Comer. Elijah Cummings, whose beautiful visage looks down upon us, taught us that the way to find common ground in a crisis is to look for the higher ground. And last week, Chairman Comer and I came together to reach for that higher ground. We made a joint statement
As it
condemning
should
the
be, sir, and congratulations.
mass shooting and assassination attempt against former President Trump as a grave assault on our democracy. As we wrote, we are united in condemning all political violence. I join the good chairman in expressing condolences to the family of Corey Comparatori and in sending healing wishes.
Yeah, y'all, please don't lose sight of that. It's not just that Trump was shot and came within millimeters of losing his life. One man died diving on top of his daughter, is my understanding. And two more were gravely injured. And she owes it to them, not just Trump and their families, to be transparent.
The wounded victims also of this atrocious act of violence. Some are calling it a miracle that former President Trump escaped this AR-15 attack, unlike so many thousands of our fellow citizens who have been killed or seriously wounded in other AR-15 shootings.
And just get ready. There's a few Democrats that don't seem to be on message and aren't quite sure why they're here, because rather than, drill down on her about what happened, they want to take it right to guns. And let me just make this clear. While I'm a registered Republican and I voted for Trump and I'm going to vote for him again, I am someone who believes that there should be stricter oversight on just who should have the ability to lawfully purchase guns. And those with, and I also think that some of the more high-powered, high magazine capacity guns, I think it should be a little more difficult, and the requirements should perhaps be a little more strenuous to be able to lawfully purchase those guns.
Is of divine providence.
I don't
or of an
just like
adventitious nature.
fall on party
Be
lines.
up to each of us to
with
ponder, but
every,
our job in Congress
issue.
is not
Not at
simply to
all.
marvel at miracles or count on good luck, but to act as public policy legislators to do whatever we can to prevent future political violence, attempted assassinations, and mass shootings. The chairman and I are thus determined to get to the bottom of the stunning security failures that enabled
Good luck with that, sir.
20-year-old lone gunman who borrowed his father's AR-15 to perpetrate a mass shooting and assassination attempt at an event protected by the Secret Service as well as state and local police. We'll ask hard questions of Director Cheadle today in order to
I heard some
identify
hard
and
questions.
understand the shocking security failures
won't
that
answer.
occurred and to help transform the operations of the
Ooh,
Secret Service
did
to
you see
prevent
that look?
anything like this from happening again. But we can't let ourselves off the hook either, dear colleagues. What happened in Butler, Pennsylvania was a double failure. The failure by the Secret Service to properly protect former President Trump and the failure of Congress to properly protect our people from criminal gun violence. We must therefore also ask hard questions about whether our laws are making it too easy for potential assassins
him.
to obtain firearms
Hi,
generally
Bouvement.
and the AR-15 specifically.
Welcome.
Mr. Comparatori,
Mama.
former President Trump,
Y'all, I'm
and
over in
other
the other
rally
window.
attendees wounded
Hi,
in
Heifer
Butler
next door.
are now members of
Ella.
the club no one wants to belong
Get out of the
to,
bushes, girl.
the thousands of people
Hi,
who have
Zen.
fallen
Hi,
victim to
Squidward.
mass shootings. Last
Hi,
year,
Miss Brittany.
we had 655
Taylor, how are you?
mass shootings in America, defined as
Y'all,
4
I'll
or
try
more
and
people
pop
being
back and
shot or
forth between
killed
the two
in a
windows.
single event, not including the shooter. 712 people died and nearly
Oh, and
2,700 people
each member gets 5 minutes.
were wounded in
And
these
they're
attacks in
they're strict about
2023.
that. It's
Mass shootings are commonplace. They
you don't
happen
get to
at political
filibuster.
rallies and constituent meetings in our elementary schools, middle schools,
Not
and
in
high
this hearing.
schools, in churches, synagogues, and mosques, in movie theaters and parades, in nightclubs and grocery stores, in concerts, and on street corners. Here are the worst mass shootings in the last 11 or 12 years. The list is a grim reminder of the horrific damage and death wrought by assault weapons and the AR-15 in particular that have taken
And
the
mentally
lives
ill
of
fucking people.
our children,
that,
parents, colleagues, and
you know,
neighbors.
get their
This
hands
is
on those.
a very partial list. Mass shootings have become so frequent
And just
that we
plain
don't
old
even
evil
hear about
people.
them anymore. Since the mass shooting
Usually
in
they're a
Butler,
little bit of
there have
both,
already been
in
at
my
least
opinion.
10 additional mass shootings in America, 2 of which
That's
took
unbelievable.
place the same day that former President Trump was
That blew my
targeted.
mind when I heard
One
that.
of the mass shootings on that violent Saturday, July 13th, happened at 11 p.m. at a nightclub in Birmingham, Alabama, where 4 people were shot dead and 10 others
I
wounded.
think I read about
This
that on
means
the news.
amazingly that the Butler attack was not even the deadliest mass shooting to happen in America on that day. A
Unbelievable.
weapon that can be used to commit a mass shooting at an event under the full protection of the Secret Service, together with dozens of state and local police, is obviously an intolerable threat to the rest of us who do not receive such protection.
That's a
and
failure of the
obviously do not
Secret
belong in our
Service, not of the
communities. It's time to
weapon.
pass universal background checks and build on this
I'm
administration's
also
work to
for
ensure
that.
that we permanently close the loopholes in the Brady law
Furthermore,
for gun show purchase.
yeah, I was just going to say, I think they should close the loophole with the gun show. But my husband explained how even if they do that, there's other loopholes within the loophole. So,
Online purchases, and private
but
sales
to
to
me,
prevent
we
those
have to.
weapons from getting
There's
into
things
the
we
hands
can
of people
try
we know
that do not
to be a threat
infringe
to
on the
others.
rights of
What
people
happened in
that
Butler shows
don't
why
need to
even
worry
closing
about
these
having those
loopholes,
weapons.
however, will not keep assault weapons out of the hands of potential assassins and mass murderers. Under federal law and in the vast majority of states,
A lot of the things that are, to me, common sense, I would venture to say that there's probably a good portion of even the Republicans who would agree with some of those measures. But let's not forget, they are beholden to maybe the NRA and other very pro-gun right organizations. So I don't want anybody's lawful rights to have access to a weapon or multiple weapons of whatever type they want. I just think that we can at least attempt to get a little more strenuous in trying to keep those high-powered, well, let's just leave it with the high-powered, high-capacity magazine guns. Keeping those out of the hands of people that we don't want to have them.
Even young people
For
not
very
old enough to
legitimate
buy
reasons.
a beer legally can legally purchase and own the AR-15 and carry it in public. The shooter in Butler used his father's AR-15. We have to find the courage and resolve to pass a ban on the AR-15 and other assault weapons.
Good luck
A
with
ban
that,
has
sir.
broad support. Even the New York Post loudly endorsed such a ban in 2019. We have passed
Well,
an
of
assault
course, they're a
weapons ban
flaming
before.
liberal paper.
Republicans and
Why
Democrats
wouldn't
together
they?
passed it in 1994. Alas, in 2004, we allowed the ban to expire. We know this weapons ban worked. One study found that in the decade that followed the ban's lapse, mass shootings went back up 183%, and deaths from mass shootings went up 239%.
A lot of other things that
But even as we changed the Secret Service and act to ban weapons of war, like the
they were
AR-15,
accessible
we
again.
still will have fallen short of our duty if we fail to denounce every instance of politically motivated violence in whatever form it takes. Republicans and Democrats, again, have come together to denounce this assassination attempt, just as we did the violent attempts on the lives of our colleagues, Representative Stephen Scalise and Representative Gabby Giffords, and on Paul Pelosi, the husband of Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who was attacked and brutalized in his home. And in the immediate aftermath of the January 6th mass violence waged against Congress and the Vice President and the constitutional transfer of power, Democrats and Republicans alike, including Senator McConnell, Chairman Comer, and other colleagues, all denounced this violent assault on our democracy that wounded approximately 140 officers from the U.S. Capitol Police.
That is the height of arrogance sitting there. Oh, and you know what? I'm sorry. Let me pause for a minute. And to just further touch on that point, how defiant and arrogant this woman is. When I found out that she had the unmitigated gall to show her face at the fucking Republican convention, I was floored. I was like, are you kidding me? Bitch. Like, do you have any awareness at all? It's just dumb luck that we're actually having this convention. And you're there to go to the fucking courtesy suite and suck down free cocktails and free food? What? I was like, if that is not the height of arrogance and, quite frankly, just an utter lack of etiquette. Yeah, just bear that in mind. And then she's got the balls to go there, but will not answer the questions of the handful of senators that just dogged her into answering. And she said something about, this is not the place for this. I'm paraphrasing. I'm here to support the Secret Service staff who are, something about the courtesy suite as a, appreciation for a job well done. Well, bitch, you didn't do a good job. What the hell are you doing here? I mean, I could not believe that. You wouldn't, ma'am, it's the Republican National Committee. What the hell is it called? Oh my God. I'm brain fried. Everybody in the room, I'm going to go out on a limb and say 99.5% of them in here, the 0.5% that are not calling for your head on a platter, not really, not literally. Well, the only ones who aren't calling for that are the left-leaning media outlets that are reporting. Dumbass. That was so unbelievable.
Denounce that attack, just as Democrats moved swiftly to denounce the attack on Congressman Scalise.
Sorry, the word is
Scalise. Political scientists tell us that authoritarian attacks on democratic institutions begin with political parties refusing to disavow or openly embracing political violence. We have to reject that on a strong bipartisan basis, as Chairman Comer and I have done, even as we ensure our Secret Service is up to its vital task of protecting presidents and candidates, and as we work to ensure that America, the streets of our country, are free from the violence of weapons of war. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back to you.
Thank you,
That ship
gentlemen.
has
Yield
sailed,
back.
sir.
Today, we are joined by Kimberly Cheadle, who was sworn into office on September 17th, 2022 as the Director of the United States Secret Service. Prior to her appointment, Director Cheadle was Senior Director of Global Security at PepsiCo Before her role at Pepsi, she served 27 years in the Secret Service.
Mhm.
Pursuant to Committee Rule 9G, the witness will please stand and raise her right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record show that the
Yes,
witness
sir.
answered in the affirmative. Thank you.
There's really no.
We certainly
well,
appreciate you being
never
here
mind.
today and look
Gonna make
forward
a
to your
statement,
testimony. We normally limit testimony to opening statement to 5 minutes, but take all.
Do you think she's playing like hangman or tic-tac-toe in her little dossier that she just opened up? Or is she just looking at the one page that says, I'm sorry, but this is an ongoing investigation and I can't comment on that. Or is she saying, I don't have all the facts? She says that so many times. Well, bitch, she does.
all the time that you need. Obviously, the rules that we will abide by. When you're finished with your statement, we will then turn to questions. Each member will have 5 minutes. And just a note to the members, I'm going to strictly adhere to the 5 minutes. Once 5 minutes is up, I will hit the gavel. If the director is in the process
need a
of
gavel.
answering a question,
I
we'll
don't have a
certainly let
gavel,
her
but I have a
finish her answers, and then we will move on.
I have a Tibetan song
We're going to have
going.
about 100% attendance here today, plus a
Why
few
is that
additional add-ons. So this will be a very lengthy hearing, and we want to make sure every member gets their 5 minutes uninterrupted to be able to ask these
something
important
tells me that's
questions in
not
this
going to be a
very,
problem.
bipartisan hearing today. I now recognize Director Cheadle for your opening statement.
Oh, God. Do y'all want to hear this?
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Comer, Ranking Member Raskin, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Kimberly Cheadle, and I'm the Director of the United States Secret Service. I appreciate the
Hopefully not
opportunity
for
to
long.
appear before you today. The assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump on July
You're
13th
going to hear
is the most significant operational failure.
everything she's going to say. You're going to hear her say again in her answer. So in the interest of just saving a little bit of time, unless y'all want to hear it. Okay, let's just skip over it because I'm telling you, you're going to hear it throughout this whole thing. What's the timestamp we're on? Let's see.
Thank you very much, Director Cheadle. We'll now begin our
It's a
5
fun one.
minutes questions, and I will begin. Just for the record,
Didn't he just
the
have
Secret
to-
Service has an annual budget of around $3.1 billion,
Wow, that's
and
a
I
lot.
believe
That's
around
big
8,000
lots.
employees. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Obviously, there were many security failures on the day of the attempted assassination and leading up to that day. Let's start with the building that the shooter used to shoot President Trump from. At any point Saturday, did the Secret Service have an agent on top of that roof?
Sir, I'm sure as you can imagine that we are just 9 days out
Wow, we're gonna start off with a bang. Just 9 days.
from this incident, and there's still an ongoing
By incident, you mean attempted assassination?
investigation. And so I want to make sure that any information
Okay,
that we are
let's-
providing
there
you
we go.
is
So you
factual.
can't-
There's the
okay.
first time.
Why did the Secret Service not?
Drink.
Can you answer why the Secret Service didn't place a single agent on the roof?
No.
We are still looking into the advanced process and the decisions that
all
were
right.
Ma'am, the advanced process is not what he's asking about.
made.
Well, okay.
And she knows that.
Wasn't that building within the perimeter that should be secured? Do we agree with that?
The building was outside of the perimeter on the day of
Ma'am, it's a yes or no question.
the visit. Again, that is one of the things that during the investigation, we want to take a look
How
at
could it have been-
and determine whether or not other decisions should have been made.
Clearly, other decisions should have been made. Oh, God.
One of the things that you said, I believe in an interview, that there wasn't an agent on the roof because it was a sloped roof. Is that normal? And do you fear that that immediately creates an
don't-
opportunity for
I don't know
future
what.
would-be assassins?
What's a sloped roof have to do with anything? We watched the kid. I mean, yes, there was a pitch, but It wasn't a right angle like she's trying to make it sound. I don't get it. Is that supposed to not factor into the security because, oh my goodness, it's so hard to scale a slightly pitched roof?
Assassins to look for a slanted roof? I mean, this is a huge question that every American has. Why wasn't a Secret Service agent on the roof? And there have been reports that agents were
Well, because the would-be assassin was on the roof.
supposed to be on the roof, but it was hot that day and they didn't want to be on the roof. Can you answer any of those questions, Director?
Wow.
So I
It was
appreciate you
hot that
asking me
day.
that question, Chairman. I
No,
should have been
you
more clear
don't.
in my answer when I spoke about where we place personnel in that interview. What I can tell you is that there was a plan in place to provide overwatch, and we are still looking into responsibilities and who was going to provide overwatch. But the Secret Service
Can't you just and have she's so full of shit, as if she sits here not knowing who had what job duty.
in general, not speaking specifically to this incident,
What-
when we are providing
ma'am,
overwatch, whether that
Ma'am, excuse me, that's why you're there. So what are you going to speak to?
be through counter snipers or other technology, prefer to have sterile rooftops.
Did the Secret Service use any drones for surveillance that day?
So again, I'm not going to get into specifics of that day in itself, but there are times
Then what? What are you going to get into? Because that's what we all want to hear about.
during a security plan that the Secret Service does deploy an asset like a drone.
There were reports that the shooter used a drone just a few hours before the rally start
What the fuck? Like, don't they restrict the airspace?
time. Is that accurate?
I have heard those same reports, and again, am waiting for the final report.
Do you
from-
know, if you can't answer,
Okay, wait a minute. Everyone else has heard those reports, but she's acting as if she doesn't have all the information. See, this bitch is full of shit.
the question, that's your answer. But can you answer this? Do you know? Do you know? I'm not asking yes or no, but do
course she
you know
does.
if the shooter used a drone before
Of
the
course she
shooting?
does.
That information has been passed to us from the FBI.
How many
Is that a yes, ma'am? Would that be a yes?
Secret Service agents were assigned to President Trump on the day of the rally?
Again, I'm not going to get into the specifics of the numbers of personnel that we had there,
Why?
but we feel that there was a sufficient number of agents assigned.
There are reports
Clearly there was not, ma'am.
that several agents assigned to the rally on July 13th were temporary agents, agents not normally assigned to President Trump. Is
Like Paul Blart Mall Cop, Wackenhut, Rent-A-Cop. What?
that accurate?
What I can tell you is that the agents that were assigned
Nothing
to
thus
former
far.
President Trump are Secret Service agents that provide
No
close
shit.
protection to him. And that was what was actual on that day.
How many temporary agents were there that day?
Quite frequently, sir, during campaign events, the Secret Service
Your Honor, non-responsive. And for anybody that doesn't know, you'll often hear that in court. Non-responsive is just what she's doing. It's just filibustering. It's not answering the question, but going off on some crazy tangent about something else.
Service utilizes
She's a big fan of
agents
this.
from HSI or the Department of
But
Homeland
you
Security
don't
to
know how
help
many.
supplement
answer.
our plan.
Of course she does.
Have the investigators reconstructed the shooter's precise movements over the past days, weeks,
Of
and months?
course they have.
So
We-
again,
we need to have confidence that if the FBI is leading this investigation, that they're leading a credible investigation, because there's some of us,
I do believe the director of the FBI has, used his, well, let's just say the Justice Department. A lot of people believe that they have been very improperly used to attempt to do everything in their power to see Donald Trump be able to not only run for president, but possibly be elected.
sitting up here
So-
today, that don't have a lot of.
I personally hope that if Trump wins, and I certainly hope he does, because this country cannot take 4 more years of the gross incompetence that we've had. But I truly hope that if he is elected, he will go in and, well, how did he put it? Drain the swamp, clean house, get rid of all of them. Because in my opinion, there's a lot of very corrupt officials within the Justice Department.
Confidence in the FBI. So I will repeat the question. Have the investigators reconstructed the shooter's precise moments over the past days, weeks, and months?
I understand your question, Chairman, and I
And answer
share
it!
your concerns about wanting to make sure that we have factual information. The FBI is conducting a criminal investigation. The
Uh-huh.
Secret Service is conducting an internal investigation. There are a number of
Oh, I just love that when the abject failure at the one fucking job she has, which is keep this guy alive and ensure the safety of, the American public that wants to hear him speak. I just love it when they get to investigate themselves. Oh my God.
of OIG investigations, and there is the external investigation that the president.
Last question for me. Before July 13th, had the Trump detail requested additional resources?
This is very
What I can tell
interesting.
you is that
Her
for the
answer.
event on July 13th, the details that were the assets that were requested for that day were given.
So is that your way of saying, well, yes, on that day, but how about the other days?
My time has expired. Chair now recognizes Ranking Member asking for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been reported that before former President Trump got up on the stage at around 6 p.m. on Saturday, July 13th, that the local police had identified and even photographed a man who was acting suspiciously. And this man, who turned out to be the gunman, had been flagged as a potential threat. Is that
Do you think that climbing up on the roof, did that like raise any red flags for anybody?
accurate?
My God, just look at him. He was
What I can say is that
raised
the
the
individual was identified
flags with
as
me.
suspicious.
So he was known to be suspicious before former President Trump took the stage.
unbelievable.
That is the information I have received.
Why was he allowed to take the stage with a suspicious person having been identified in the crowd?
Oh, that's a great question.
So I appreciate the question, and I'd like to make 2 points.
How about you just fucking answer the question? That would be fantastic.
If the detail had been passed information that there was a threat, the detail would never have brought the former president out onto stage. That is
Okay, so basically what needed to happen was this fucking weirdo who clearly looks sorry, I'm just going to say it. I mean, he looked like a whack job. And he was. What he needed to do was pass a little note like, hey, in about an hour here, I'm going to try and kill him. I mean, it just blows my mind that this woman sits up here as the director of the Secret Service, and these are the kind of answers that she is giving.
what we do, and that is who we are. We are charged with
Well, you didn't do it
protecting,
that day.
all of our protectees.
So you distinguish between someone who is suspicious and someone who's threatening, is that
I
right?
do. There are a number of times at protective events where suspicious people are identified, and those individuals have to be investigated and determined what is it that identifies that person as suspicious.
So did you deny?
How about climbing on a
request for
roof?
additional resources that had been made by the Trump campaign?
There were no assets denied for that event in Butler on the 13th.
I see. So you're
But
saying there
other
were
days they
requests
were.
made for additional assistance for other specific events rather than for the campaign as a whole. Is that right?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
Well,
Oh, bitch.
you seem to
please.
say that there were not
Draw your
additional
picture.
resources requested for that event. And forgive me for being unfamiliar with this. Is it requested
Oh,
event
what twisted webs we weave when first we practice to deceive.
by event, or is it requested just in general for the campaign?
So if I can explain the advance process.
Please, fill
when
us
when
dummies
An
in.
event or an venue is
Fill in
identified
the civilian.
by, in this case, campaign staff,
Mhm.
then the campaign staff works together with Secret Service agents who go out and conduct an advance. Generally, that is a 5-day time period where those discussions are had about what the perimeter is going to look like, what the
Mhm.
size of the event is, what the venue is, and then from there, there is a request made to mitigate potential risk and threat. And I'm saying that on that day, the requests that were pushed forward were granted.
So the Secret Service did
Yeah, you've
not
said that
know that the
3
gunman
times at
actually had a
least.
weapon before President Trump was allowed to get up on the stage.
To the best of our knowledge and the facts that we have at this point, that is correct.
So can you answer this question, which I think is on the mind of most Americans thinking about this? How can a 20-year-old with his father's AR-15 assault weapon climb onto a roof with a direct 150-yard line of sight to the speaker's podium without the Secret Service or local police stopping him?
That's a great question.
So again, sir, I will say we are 9 days out from this event, and I would like to know those answers as well, which is why we are going through these investigations to be able to determine that fully.
Okay. It's been reported that the shooter was not carrying a driver's license or any form of identification. They had no idea who he was, but then he was quickly identified, I think within 30 minutes, by using the serial number on the AR-15 under a tracing system that is now controversial. Some people say we should get rid of it. Some people want to keep it. But is that right that the serial number was the key information which led to the identification of the shooter?
That is my understanding, sir, yes.
Okay.
How about
Um,
yes?
If an American citizen were just to stop you and say, Director Cheadle, we support your work to the tune of billions of dollars and thousands of employees, what went wrong? What would you say?
We're only 9 days out, and I'm still gathering information.
Again, knowing that we're 9 days out, I would say, as I have said from the very outset, I accept
embarrassed for you,
responsibility
ma'am.
for this.
Ma'am, you do not take responsibility. Taking responsibility, she seems to think, starts and stops with the statement, I take responsibility. No, you don't.
Tragedy. We are going to look into how this happened, and we are going to take corrective action to ensure that it never happens again.
Well, I appreciate that. And I hope.
Here's a thought. Maybe you should hire the regular Joe Schmo, everyday citizens, the civilians that were there to listen to Trump, who were, wildly trying to alert anybody who would listen that there's a dude on the roof. He's on the roof. He's got a gun. Maybe you should consider hiring them because they seem more qualified than your people.
You will act with vigor and focus and intensity.
Vigor.
And it seems you understand the
word.
gravity and solemnity of this to the American people.
Oh, bullshit.
Millions and millions of Americans don't feel safe with all the AR-15s out there. We thought at least the
Oh,
president
God.
of the United
Here we
States
go
or
with
a
this.
former president of the United States would be safe, but now that's not even clear. Mr. Chairman, I yield back to you.
Gentleman yields back. Chair now recognizes Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Mr. Jordan.
Nope. Here we go. Let the flaying begin. He takes her ass to school.
From Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, were you guessing or lying?
Oh, damn. Right
Day
out the
after
gate.
President Trump is shot, Secret Service
love him.
spokesman Anthony Guglielmi said, quote, the assertion that a member of the former president's security team requested additional security resources that the U.S. Secret Service or the Department of Homeland Security rebuffed is absolutely false. The next day, Secretary Mayorkas said that is an unequivocally
Oh,
false
fuck him
assertion.
too.
We had not received any request for additional security measures that were rebuffed. But 5 days later, the Washington Post said this.
They can't make up their
Top
minds.
officials repeatedly rejected requests
Which to me, Mr. Jordan, to answer your question, because I will answer it, I think it points to lying.
from Donald Trump's security detail for more personnel. The next day, the New York Times said this. Mr. Guglielmi acknowledged that the Secret Service had turned down some requests for additional federal security assets for Mr. Trump's detail. So which is it? Because both statements can't be true. Were you guessing or lying when you said you didn't turn down requests from President Trump's
Ooh, what do you think she's scribbling on her notepad? F you, Jim Jordan.
detail?
Neither, sir, and I appreciate the question.
Well, what
You do not appreciate the question, and if you do, answer it.
were you doing? Because those statements don't jive.
So what I can tell you is that for the event in Butler, there were
Mhm.
no requests that were denied. As far as requests,
Well, maybe they got tired of asking. Maybe you turned them down so darn much they said,
Touche.
not worth asking. How many times did you turn them down ahead of that?
I think that it is important to distinguish between what some people may view as a denial of an asset or a request.
Well, is
does
Mr.
not-
Guglielmi your spokesperson? He said he acknowledged the Secret
She
Service
won't
had
even answer
turned
that.
down some requests. I'm asking how many?
A denial of a request does not equal a vulnerability.
Well, tell me what it is.
There are a number of ways that threats and risks can be mitigated
Wonderful. We're looking for a number, ma'am.
with a number of different assets, whether that be through personnel, whether that be through technology or other
Well,
resources.
tell the committee which it was. They asked for additional help in some form or another. You told them no. How many times did you tell them no, and what'd you tell them no to?
It's only been 9 days.
Again, I cannot speak to specific incidents, but I can tell you in general
Bullshit.
terms,
Do you think for 1 minute this bitch has not been the internal meetings that have been had? I mean, it is ludicrous to believe that the people who have access to exactly how many times additional assets were requested and rejected, for her to sit here and act like she does not know that exact number, along with many other people, bullshit. I assure you she does.
the Secret Service
Reflection
is
much?
judicious with their resources based on
What is some
Yeah, like your salary.
request
Little
mean?
too
How many
judicious.
times? Some indicate requests is plural. So more than once they asked for additional help and you turned them down. What they asked for and how many times did you turn them down? Pretty
She's
basic
making a little more than $250,000 a year.
questions.
So again, without having all of the details in front of me, sir, what I can tell you is that there are
You
times.
didn't
Why
get
aren't they
briefed
in
on how
front of
many times
you?
you turned down the Trump detail when they asked for additional help?
I'm sorry.
You didn't get briefed on that before you came to this hearing, knowing you were going to get asked that question?
Exactly.
What I can tell you
Yeah.
is that in generic terms,
We
when
don't want
people-
generic
when
terms.
details make a
We
request,
want a number.
there are times that there are alternate ways to cover
Yep,
off
you
on
already
that threat
said that.
or
We
that
got it.
But
risk.
that's not what he said. He said they were denied certain requests, some
I-
requests.
I,
This
I-
is your spokesperson, not me talking. This is the Secret Service talking.
I
And,
understand.
and what a change from absolutely false, unequivocally false to, oh, by the way, there were some times where we didn't give them what they wanted. That's a huge
Oh.
change in 5 days.
So to
And the
answer
fact
your
that you can't
question,
answer how many
she
times
was
you
lying.
did that, that's pretty darn frustrating, not just for me, but for the country.
she doesn't give a
I
fuck.
hear your frustration.
Let me ask you this.
Oh
were
my
any
God.
of the-
Don't try and get all like psycho babble on us. I hear your frustration. I mean, oh my God, the audacity of this bitch.
those requests denied to President Trump's detail after you knew about the Iranian threat?
What I can tell you, again, I don't know the specifics, is
Yes, you
that
do.
there are times when
Dumb
we
bitch.
can fill a request. It doesn't necessarily have to be with a Secret Service.
Ma'am, that is at least the 4th time you have asserted that. We've got it. Non-responsive, Your Honor.
Asset or resource, we can fill that request with locally available
Yeah.
assets.
You
and
spoke to anyone at the
resources.
White House since
Paul Blart
July
Mall
13th?
Cop.
Yes, I have.
Who'd you talk
Of course
to?
she has.
I have briefed the president and the vice president.
Talk to the First Lady?
No, I have not.
Talk to the White House staff? Anyone in the White House communications?
Don't
No, I have
lie.
not.
Have you talked to the counter sniper who took the shot that took out the bad guy?
Yes, I have.
And can you tell us about that conversation?
No.
I would not want to reveal conversations that I've had with my employees.
You don't want to reveal anything, ma'am. We got it.
But that's exactly the kind of information the American people want to know. American people who pay your salary.
I understand.
"I don't
This is an
care."
ongoing investigation. And
Ah,
Who's
I'm
all
there we
doing the
go.
investigating at
Ongoing
Secret Service? I know the Inspector General, but is there also an internal investigation in addition to the Inspector General?
Of course.
we are conducting a mission assurance investigation
Mission
internally.
assurance. Mission not accomplished, ma'am.
Yes.
You know what it looks like, Director? It looks like you won't answer some pretty basic questions. It looks like you got a
correct.
9% raise and you cut corners when it came to protecting one of the most important
Oh my
individuals, most
goodness.
well-known individuals
Wow.
on the planet. A former president, likely the guy's going to be the next president. Looks like you guys were cutting
A major controversial provocateur.
corners. That's what it looks like to me. Is that true?
I am here today because I want to answer questions.
Is, Your Honor, non-responsive. It's a yes or no, ma'am.
But I also want to be
You
cautious.
might want to, but you haven't answered. I don't think you've answered one question
No,
from the
not
chairman,
really.
the ranking
She
member,
hasn't.
or
She's
me.
just
Well,
filibustering.
we got a lot of other people asking.
with
We'll see if
deflection
your record
about
improves. But
things
right
that
now, you haven't answered. I don't think
we
any
already
questions.
know.
I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair now recognizes Ms. Norton from Washington, D.C.
Thank you,
Get
Mr.
ready.
Chairman.
This is going to be a 5-minute.
In the summer of
bless her
1963,
heart,
as
she
a
seems
law
like a
student,
sweet
I
woman, but
traveled to the South
this is
to
gonna be all
work in
about
the civil
guns.
rights movement.
Nothing else.
When I arrived in Jackson, Mississippi, I was met by a civil rights activist who showed me around town and tried to convince me to work in Jackson that summer. I recall talking with him and his wife about the raw atmosphere in Jackson. Later that day, he took me to the bus station for my trip to my assignment. That night, he was assassinated outside his home. His name was Medgar Evers. I condemn the political violence. It is a threat
Hi,
to
Celia.
democracy.
How are you?
I want to discuss one of the roots of political violence, guns. For
Oh,
years,
God.
Republicans,
Hey,
including a
Roy.
member of this committee, have introduced legislation and amendments to repeal or block the
Ma'am,
District of Columbia
I
gun
don't think it's solely guns that bring about political violence. Some unhinged person has to be controlling the gun.
violence protection laws, including its bans on assault weapons and large capacity magazines. The shooter at the Trump rally,
And I would like to note that while he had, I believe it was if it wasn't an AR-15, it was an AR-15 style. I don't know exactly how many shots he got off. I've heard as many as 5, but he didn't need the AR-15 to do what he did. Because the most I've heard is 5, and I don't even know if that's accurate. So I don't even really know why we're talking about this. Now, if he had sprayed a whole magazine, that would be a different story. But he didn't need the AR-15 to do what he did.
use the mass
done it with,
shooter's gun of choice.
The
an
very
assault
small
weapon,
gun that
specifically
I have
an
in my home,
AR-15
just for me.
style
'Cause I can't.
rifle,
My
and
husband's are
presumably a large capacity magazine,
9
which is
millimeter is not
defined in DC
too much for me.
as a
I have
magazine that can hold
small. I think
more
it's
than 10 bullets. Under current
380?
DC
I
law,
think it's a 380.
DC does not recognize concealed carry
But
permits
it lives
issued
in
by
my
other
safe.
jurisdictions.
The only time it
But it
even
does
comes out is if I'm home alone.
issue
overnight,
concealed carry
is
permits
very
to
rare,
both residents and
Occasionally, my husband has
non-residents.
to go out of town to work.
However, DC imposes a number of requirements on concealed carry applicants, including suitability,
Man,
such as not having
what does this
exhibited
have
a
to do with
propensity
what we're
for
here
violence
for?
or instability. Moreover, DC residents
Cheadle's just glad to
restricts
let
where the guns can be carried.
let all the chap
such
skin
as a
on her ass
political
that Jim Gordon just
demonstration
left her with.
near the White
She's happy to
House
just,
and
let
Naval
that cool off. as she
Observatory
puts
or
it in the
near
truth.
people under Secret Service protection, provided the permit holder has been given notice. This week, the House is expected to consider the fiscal year 2025 financial services
Ooh,
and general
goodness.
government
Rod
appropriations bill.
Pickens.
This Republican drafted bill would allow an individual with a permit to carry a concealed handgun issued by a state or territory to carry a concealed handgun in DC,
Uh-huh.
regardless of that jurisdiction's permit
I
requirements.
do believe
A
DC is
Republican has
got a
filed
very,
an
very
amendment to
high
that provision
um,
to allow
rate of gun
such an
violence and
individual to
death.
carry a magazine of any size with that handgun.
And
In short, the pending
I
bill
don't think
and amendment would
whether or
allow
not
any
they
person
had
with
a
a carry
license to
permit
conceal carry
issued by another
would affect
jurisdiction
those
to
numbers
carry a
at all.
concealed handgun with a magazine of any size in any location in the District of Columbia. The Secret Service is responsible for protecting a
I
large
mean, I
number
get
of
it.
people
She's the rep
and
from the
facilities
District
in
of Columbia,
DC.
but
Director
Pam, how about the
Cheadle,
rest of the country? I mean,
would Secret Service protectees in DC be safer or less safe if people who have exhibited a propensity for violence or instability could carry a concealed
they do it
handguns
anyway.
in DC?
They don't give a shit if they have a concealed carry license.
I think being a Secret Service agent and an officer or a law enforcement officer in any state is difficult. They are required to make decisions.
Your Honor,
and snap judgments
non-responsive.
in the blink of an eye. And I think that the officers and the agents that work here in the DC area do a great job of monitoring the public and reacting to
Monitoring
threats
the public.
as
That's
appropriate when
interesting.
they arise.
I didn't know that was part of their
Would
job
Se-
to monitor
Secret
the
Service
public.
protectees in DC be safer or less safe if people in DC could carry concealed handguns with large capacity magazines?
Irrelevant.
I think, ma'am, that we work in parameters where we travel around North America and the rules on open
Non-responsive.
carry and concealed carry are different from state to state. And that is part of what the Secret Service takes into account.
What the
when we
hell does
develop
this
a
have to
security
do
plan.
with what we're here for?
Obviously, anyone that comes into
Ms.
one of our
Norton,
protective sites.
Well, I think you look like a lovely grandma, and kudos to you for, still working. But this is nothing more than her pushing her agenda. This has jack shit all to do with why this bitch is here. And all she's talking about is her District of Columbia.
we would
So can we
establish
get on
magnetometer
message,
support,
ma'am?
metal detectors that personnel would have to process through,
How interesting,
eliminating
though.
that potential.
Would Secret Service
I find it
protectees in
very
DC be
disturbing
safer
that
or less safe if
Cheadle
more
said
people could carry
part of their
handguns?
job is monitoring the
DC.
American public. What the hell does
I
that
think,
mean?
again, as I stated, ma'am, we want to make
That-
sure that we
that's
provide a
more
safe
like
environment for all of our
Reminiscent
protectees.
of, I don't
And
know,
whatever
North
measures we would
Korea,
need to put in place
Russia.
for a secure
Cuba.
site, we would do so.
What?
I yield back.
Gentlelady's
Sure.
time's
Thank
expired. Chair now
God.
recognizes the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Mr. Turner from Ohio.
Director Cheadle, your opening statement indicates that the Secret Service constructed a security plan for the site in Pennsylvania. I'm assuming that security plan would also include the security footprint for the site, but it also would be based upon a threat assessment for the threats associated with Donald Trump and the crowd in attendance. Would it
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it was very high, probably off the charts.
not include a threat assessment?
Yes, it would.
So that threat assessment, as we know,
even
basically
the
what it
Iranians
started
want him.
with is a generalized threat against Donald Trump because he is a presidential candidate. Then it would have gone to he's a former president and he gets security coverage just as Bush, Clinton, Carter, and Obama do. And then you also have the heightened political environment.
And the fact that
Even for
he's
those, it's clear
incredibly
that the
controversial.
security footprint, that the threat assessment was insufficient, which permitted that a 20-year-old to actually enter with a weapon and shoot Donald Trump. But I want to ask you about two other aspects of the threat assessment. It is known and public that Iran is a threat risk for Donald Trump. They're a threat risk for John Bolton, former Secretary of State Pompeo, and Donald Trump, because they have indicated they want to assassinate them as a result of retaliation for the killing of Soleimani. That is both for Iran, a generalized threat. They're targeting these individuals, but also most recently, a specific.
I hope they don't use any of those pallets of money that Joe Biden sent over. Or was that Obama? I don't. Yeah. For some reason, Trump had pretty much taken away their ability to produce a nuke. I I do not sleep well knowing that all that money that the United States gave to them, yeah, it was literally pallets that were shrink wrapped. I forget, it was hundreds of millions. And the way they thank us is they want to assassinate Donald Trump. And Pompeo and whoever else he said, yes, in retaliation for us taking out Soleimani as he was driving to work one morning. Whatever. I don't know. What do terror organizations consider work? Maybe he was procuring, what is it? Radium? And something else that I can't remember at the moment. Yeah, we got him when he was in his car. He's no longer with us. So yeah, that's a very legit concern.
Threat to Donald Trump himself. Now, I want to enter into the record by UC a Department of Justice Public Affairs release, a CNN article, an article from Fox News, and an article from CBS, all of which acknowledge
Without objection to order.
that this threat exists for Donald Trump from Iran, and that there are specific threats most recently that have been acknowledged. Director Cheadle, have you read the intelligence of the generalized threat
Well, why would I do
to
that?
Donald Trump
I'm a
by
busy woman.
Iran as a result of their desire to retaliate for the killing of Soleimani?
Soleimani.
I have.
Have you
Let's keep track of I do believe first time she has answered a question that is a simple yes or no question with a yes or a no. So somebody keep track.
read or been briefed about the intelligence of the specific recent threat to Donald Trump from Iran?
Yes, I have.
2.
Director Wray, when we were getting our briefing, indicated that he thought the threat assessment should have included this threat from Iran. Is it your testimony today that the threat assessment, since you've read this intelligence, was sufficient to protect him from this threat from Iran?
She couldn't protect him from a 20-year-old nut job with a gun climbing on a roof visible to everybody except the counter snipers and the Secret Service agents. So is that a rhetorical question, I assume?
Testimony today is that the information that we had at the time was known.
Was it sufficient? Director Cheadle,
Yes or
was
no,
it
ma'am?
sufficient for the Iranian threat that you said you have read the intelligence briefings for?
That information was passed to
Well, I'm not
Non-responsive.
asking the bureaucratic issue of who did it get passed around to.
Yes
Director
or
Cheadle,
no?
was it sufficient for the specific and generalized threat to Donald Trump's life from Iran?
No.
yes, I do believe it was.
What the fuck? She needs to be fired. She needed to be fired 9 days ago. She's a fucking joke, okay? She could not keep him safe, or the man who lies dead in his grave and 2 more who are, gravely injured. She couldn't keep him safe from fucking 20-year-old nut job. But, it was sufficient for, any threats against Iran. Oh my God.
Director
This is why
Cheadle,
people
is
hate
an
fucking
Iranian assassin
politics.
more capable
Because of
than a 20-year-old?
politicians like her.
Sir, I think
Although,
we've
I don't know. I
acknowledged
guess she's not technically a politician. But she's a member of the political machine.
that there
government.
was gaps and a failure that day. We are
When I
not-
raised this issue with
But it was,
Director Wray,
we had all those little problems. But yes, it was sufficient to, keep him safe from Iran.
he was
Just not a
incensed. He
20-year-old.
was shocked that the threat assessment
How do you say that
of
with a straight
Iran
face?
did not seem to be, as we and I discussed, baked in to your security footprint and your threat assessment. And he went on to say that the generalized threat that he has told the whole country that we are under from a potential terrorist threat. He has said we're under the highest threat
Dude,
level
what the
since
hell are you
9/11,
talking about?
that the lights are flashing red. And he has specifically indicated that people have crossed the southern border as a result of the Biden administration's
Tim, I
policy,
couldn't.
and that there are
I
in our
couldn't.
country
I would-
today terrorists
I got
and
ideas, though.
individuals who are affiliated with terrorist groups and
Let
organizations.
me tell you something. You want to hear
That
something
would
funny?
be a heightened threat
I
environment.
have told my husband countless times, every time something like this happens, some, bureaucratic asshole with their head up their ass that just is either corrupt or stupid or all of the above. I said, you know what? I'm actually to the point where I would love to just take the 100 senators. Sorry, I don't know how many congressmen and women we have. Sorry. In the House of Representatives. Whatever the number is, fire them all and draw from either the voter registration rolls or the driver's license. Although I think it would be more fair if we did it from the voter rolls, because just because you don't have a driver's license, but if you will take the very small steps to become a registered voter, pull from those rolls and fill the House and the Senate with random Americans. How much fucking worse could they do? Honest to God. I mean, the budget is, this country is an absolute mess. And clearly all these, slick talking, most of them are very educated. Lots of them are lawyers. That's shocking. How much worse could Joe Schmo do? Oh, and don't even get me started on voting. Because, when I became a registered voter, it was old school. Was there mail-in? I don't even think there was mail-in ballots. And the election was the day of the election. Not the day after, the week after, because you're too fucking lazy to get in your car and go to your polling place. It's just absurd the way we have dumb shit down. Well, I can opine on all that too.
Director Cheadle, would it not?
Yes.
In his public statements, he has said he is making these statements because he wants people to take them into consideration in threat assessments. Specifically.
Oh, why? Come on.
Now, that would be a threat not
it's a long
just
way
to
away.
Donald Trump, but it would also be a threat to the crowd there, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Are ISIS terrorists and Al-Qaeda terrorists and international groups and terrorists more capable than a 20-year-old in pulling off their mass shooting or an assassination of Donald Trump?
Oh, can I answer this one? You know what? They're probably better equipped than they were before Biden decided to just pull on out of Afghanistan, without much of a plan or anything. I think they did have a week's notice. And, we were kind enough to leave them all of our assets that, sorry, it's too, I don't have enough room in my suitcase to put all those, those H1s, the Hummers, and we don't have room for that shit. Just leave it here. Joe Biden, in my opinion, is the single worst fucking president we have ever had. And I can't wait for the hearings when we attempt, but it'll be much in this vein, when we attempt to find out just who and how many in the White House have covered up for that feckless, senile old bastard's mental and physical decline. The physical, that's not really so important to me. This and I'm all I can say is Kamala Harris polls worse than Joe Biden. So she'd be a great pick to replace him. But, it doesn't seem very democratic to me that Biden yielded to the pressure of, the people that were his BFFs a few weeks ago, I don't know, Pelosi, Biden, Schumer. Yeah, lots of them. It just doesn't seem very democratic to tell all the people that voted for him. Well, sorry about your luck. We knew that he couldn't win against Trump, so we had to get him out of there. And, I know my husband very much believes that the way they got him out of there was telling him that, well, guess what? We're going to come after Hunter. Hunter's going to have a lot more problems with the justice system than he would have if you just do what we want you to do. Oh, and let's not forget his crooked, corrupt ass brother either. Joe's brother. Okay, sorry, I got off on a little tangent. Carry on, Mr. Turner.
Sir, again, there was clearly a breakdown
Right.
and a failure that day.
Have you read the intelligence of the terrorists that are currently in the United States that Director Ray speaks, and those individuals that are here that are affiliated with terrorist groups and organizations that are in the process, as Director Ray said, of representing a significant threat of a terrorist attack occurring in the United States?
I have read reports that apply
It's a
specifically.
good thing they can't use.
Extremism.
Oh my
and
God, I
violence.
did not just do that. Son of a bitch. Hold on, I remember who was talking. Oh no, not her.
The intelligence of the terrorists that are currently in the United States that Director Ray speaks, and those individuals that are here that are
Right,
affiliated with
they
terrorist
are.
groups and organizations that are in the process, Director Ray said, of representing a significant threat of a terrorist attack occurring in the United States.
I have read reports.
It's a
that
good thing
apply
they can't drive
specifically to
those
the Secret
Hummers here.
Service's mission.
Director Cheadle, because Donald Trump is alive, and thank God he is, you look incompetent.
Yes.
If Donald Trump had been killed, you would have looked culpable. There is
He
no
didn't.
aspect of this that indicates that there has been any protection to Donald Trump. The threat was identified before he took the stage, and the shooter was only killed after Donald Trump himself was killed. Not
No.
only should you
No, Mr. Turner, he was not killed. Fortunately, he's alive.
resign, if you refuse to do so, President Biden needs to fire you
Yes.
because his
But he
life,
won't.
Donald Trump's life, and all the other
But do
people
you
that
know
you
what we
protect
might
are
be
at
able to
risk
do?
because you have no concept of the aspect.
The House Appropriations Committee is who funds the Secret Service budgets. And my husband and I were talking, and I said, well, you know, they're not going to defund their whole budget just to force her out. And he said, well, her salary, it's possible and actually probable when you think about it, that is a line item in that budget. So it's possible that they could just say, well, you know what? You don't want to do the right thing. The commander in chief is not going to fire you. So we're just going to defund the $280,000 a year that constitutes your salary. I think that would be great.
That the
I mean, let's
security
get
footprint
creative,
needs to be
folks.
correlated to the threat. I yield back.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Lynch from Massachusetts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Cheadle, there were multiple security failures at the former president's rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. First of all, there was a failure to isolate the podium from exposure to direct fire.
Very good
Do we
point.
know who made that decision to allow that rooftop to remain as an unprotected area? Do we know
Well, come on. It was a pitched roof. Okay. It had a slope.
who came up with that security plan that omitted that?
Sir, I don't have a specific person to identify for.
Okay.
You are a fucking lying sack of shit. You're a liar. And if you don't have that information, then you're even more incompetent than I already think you are. If you don't have that information and you're the boss, well, who does have it?
Okay, well, that's what I'm looking for. So let's
Well,
let's
that's
move
she ain't
on.
gonna give it to you.
There's also a breakdown in security and failure to confront the shooter over an hour before the former president began his remarks, when the shooter was identified as a person of interest. What particularly allowed agents or law enforcement to identify him as a person of interest?
It might have been the fact that he was a civilian and he was climbing up and down off a roof. Oh yeah, and he had a gun too.
So I appreciate the question. And again, I will
Although
say that we
I'm
are
sure he
9
wasn't
days
walking
out.
around with a
and
gun.
There are a multitude of
An hour
interviews
ahead
that
of
are
time.
still taking
Okay,
place.
so did he have a rangefinder? There were some reports that the individual had a rangefinder. That was
Ma'am, for the record, you're going to need to say yes or no, shaking your head. The court reporter, she can't get that into the record. All your responses need to be verbal.
that would certainly raise my suspicion.
Yeah,
Did he have a
probably.
rangefinder?
Yes, he did, but may I
Okay,
explain?
3
that
times.
At a number of
And
our
she's
sites,
answered yes or
especially
no.
when you're at outdoor venues, a rangefinder is not a prohibited item. It is sometimes an item that is brought in by individuals if you're
But
going to be in
did
the back.
anybody confront him on that?
I mean, I'm still not clear on. In fact, I asked my husband, I said, what the hell is a rangefinder? And he explained it, but I was like, oh, okay. I mean, just look at the kid. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to profile, but yeah, I'm profiling. He looked like a fucking wacko. Okay. He just did.
Anybody ask him questions? What are you doing with the
No,
rangefinder?
why would we do that?
Anybody
It's only
confront
it's
him
only one
on-
of the former
on his
presidents speaking.
presence
It's no
where he was in proximity to the president?
So again, to my knowledge, I believe that that was the process that was taking place, was to locate the individual.
Did they confront him? Did they go up to him? Did they
It's only been 9 days.
I do
or
not
9
have
days
those
out.
details at
Okay,
this
that-
time.
those are
You
important
are a fucking liar, and yes, you do. And if you don't, like I said, you're more incompetent than everyone already thinks.
details? There was also a failure to communicate between law enforcement to act quickly upon information provided by either local law enforcement or rally attendees that the suspect was positioned on the roof. There were minutes of delay before
the guys with
any
binoculars see him? It's
meaningful action
awful
was
strange.
taken, even though he was several hundred feet from the podium. And this was obviously minutes before the shooting. Let me ask you, there was considerable delay in removing the president from the podium
Hold on.
after the shooting began. He was shot in the air. It was still over a minute before he was removed from the stage. Meanwhile, this shooter had multiple clips.
And can I just say, this is what I was sitting on my couch screaming at TV. This Cheadle, she's a big fan of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I personally myself, I do not give a fuck about DEI. I want the best person. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what sex you are. I don't care about any of that shit. I want the best person for the job. Her goal is to make the Secret Service about 30% female by whatever year. I don't remember. As a female myself, I'm sitting there watching a woman who, and incidentally, Eric Trump spoke very highly of one of the female Secret Service agents that were on the stage. And, got Trump out of there after much delay. She was on his detail for a period of time. Like I said, he spoke very highly of all of them, but, specifically of her because he had worked with her. I'm sorry. Donald Trump is a very tall man. I want to say is he 6'4" or 6'5"? He is very tall. One of the first things I noticed as they, rushed to cover him, well, you weren't covering him. His head, which is, I would say one of the most crucial parts with, the exception of center mass. But when you are about a foot shorter, well, not a foot, several of those agents, but most especially the couple females, were significantly shorter than Donald Trump. So you tell me, why was he left standing there with his head exposed for quite a while? It was ridiculous. When Ronald Reagan was shot by Hinckley in an attempt to get the attention of Jodie Foster, the actress, the limousine, he was coming out of a hotel, I believe. And I was I in middle school? I think I might have been in middle school. I remember watching it on TV. The limousine was there curbside to pick him up. He got shot after walking out. Do you know that the Secret Service was so frantic to get him out of there that they actually broke a couple of his ribs? shoving him into that limousine. These agents, and listen, I'm not taking away from the fact that they jumped up there and, you know, all put themselves in harm's way. What I'm saying is, in doing so, it wasn't sufficient. They left his head exposed. They delayed getting him in, what do they call it? The Beast, like the huge armored Suburban. They delayed getting him in the Beast because he wanted his shoes. And listen, Donald, I'm with you. I'd want my shoes too. But fuck that. No, I'm sorry, sir. We don't have time for shoes. We'll get you a new pair. We'll get them Amazoned over here. You know, they're really good. We can get them same day. I mean, the one agent, I know it's been talked about a lot, but it was one of the first things I said when I saw it. I said, damn, she can't even holster her gun. And they left him up there exposed, in my opinion, way too long. So I don't know. I'm not with you, Kimberly. I don't think the goal needs to be to make the Secret Service 30% female. How about we make it 100% competent professionals? How about that?
Several clips. He got off 8 shots, and he had the capacity and the ability, if he was not neutralized, to
We got off 8 shots.
basically mow down that whole
8 shots? That is ridiculous. 5 is ridiculous. 8? It's amazing more people were not killed.
Secret Service detachment as well as the president. What, from your own investigation, caused that delay under the circumstances?
What I can tell you is that
Only been
when the
9 days
agents
out.
identified that the shooting was taking place, in under 3 seconds, they threw themselves.
Did the gunshots
Well,
onto
I
have any,
understand that
like,
there was
is that what
heroism
glutamate?
there. No question about it. No question about it.
Yes,
But
I would agree, but I don't think it
protocol would
was.
indicate, and these are,
I think
you
it was
know,
also
these are,
problematic.
the opinions of various former Secret Service agents, people who have done this work in the past, that over a minute of exposure
Yeah, way
on
too
that
long.
podium
Way too long.
with a shooter with a high capacity weapon who had already wounded the president and could have got off, we don't know how many more rounds, and yet the president remained exposed, even though he was joined in that exposure by the Secret Service in their heroic acts. It just, I
You
don't
know
know.
what
if there's
I
a good
didn't get
explanation.
about that? You know, they're huddled over him the best they can, but nonetheless, his head is still exposed. Why didn't somebody take their hand and put it on his head and push him down? But this is what really puzzled me. They would put their hand up like this, and I'm like, what the fuck is that going to do? And at least close your fingers so we can, you know, close the gap a little more. I didn't get that.
For that.
Our personnel created a body bunker on top of
I
the
get that.
president,
I
Uh-huh.
get
Except
that.
shielding
we didn't
him.
bunker
Yeah,
the
this
most
was
important
an
part.
AR-15 style weapon that would have made pretty quick work if he was determined and able to
Hi,
do so.
Lindsay. How are you?
This is not the first investigation that we've had of the Secret Service during my time here on this committee, and the last one
Hi,
we
Blue
had,
Jeans. How are you?
our previous investigation determined that the Secret Service was experiencing a staffing crisis that posed
Sorry, I yeeted myself. Hold on. Okay. Let me share again. I'm sorry, you guys. I don't know what I did. All right, there we go. All is well in the world. Okay.
Failures that cost Corey Comparator his life, nearly cost former president
that?
his life, and injured David Dutch and James Copenhaver. When an agency fails spectacularly at its mission, those responsible must be held accountable, and the problems
think,
must be fixed so they cannot happen again.
Representative
Why
Fox,
should the
I
American
think
people
she's
or the
wearing Paloma
officials you're
Picasso
responsible
earrings
for
from Tiffany.
protecting have
Look at her.
confidence
You
in
go,
your
girl.
ability
If they're
to
not,
lead
they're
the
a
Secret
good
Service
dupe.
after such a spectacular failure?
I appreciate the question, and I
No,
am
you
committed
don't. Then fucking
to
answer
finding
it.
answers so that we can make the agency stronger after this.
How
You
many
said on
people,
July-
when they're getting an ass reaming, look at you and go, I appreciate the question. Oh, like hell you do.
15 that the buck stops with me. How are you taking accountability for the Secret Service's failures
Well, you know, we're only
during the
9
July
days out
13
of this
assassination
event.
attempt on President Trump?
I have taken accountability, and I will continue to take
How?
accountability.
How is
I
the
am
question,
responsible for
ma'am?
leading the agency.
I'm telling you, she thinks that just by making the statement, I'm taking accountability, that means, oh yes, she's taking accountability. You're delusional. And you insult all the rest of us that you apparently think believe that bullshit.
Agency,
Nobody
and I am
believes you.
responsible for finding the answers to how this event occurred.
Well, we're fucked. I mean, you better get in the mystery van with Bull Skank Betty and Scooby-Doo and Roro Raggy. I mean, oh my God.
And making sure that it doesn't happen again.
So I would like to explore how you got the job as director of the United States
President
Secret
Biden
Service.
appointed me
Is it typical for the
because, you know, he's very into DEI. Case in chief, what the hell's her name? Jean-Pierre, the press secretary. Is her name Corinne? Corinne Jean-Pierre? You know, Raggedy Ann. No, not that one. The other Raggedy Ann. Oh God. Biden appointees, they check off boxes. Kind of like his fucking inept vice presidential. Well, she is the vice president. I don't know how many of you would feel safe with Kamala Harris being the president, but I certainly am not one of them. We haven't even seen her ass for 3 years. Where the fuck has she been? Her one job being the border czar. What? Yeah. Oh, well, we all know that's a fucking epic fail. But oh yeah, she's qualified to be the president. Biden appoints people because they tick off the boxes on DEI. I'm sure Cheadle, case in point, you know, pandering to the woman vote, the white woman vote, the African-American woman vote, et cetera, et cetera.
The director of the Secret Service to be recommended for the role at the behest of a president's family and senior staff, perhaps at the request of Jill Biden or Anthony Bernal?
I got the job as a director of the Secret Service because I spent 27 years in an agency with a mission that I absolutely love. I started my career in Detroit. I worked my way up through investigations and protection.
Was there competition for the position?
Probably not.
You would have to ask those who were involved in the interview process.
Oh, bitch, come on. As if you didn't.
But you think you are the best person in
Yes.
the country to head the Secret Service?
Absolutely.
I think that I am the best person to lead the Secret Service at this time.
Then, ma'am, you are clearly delusional. I beg to differ.
The Secret Service receives billions in funding each year, as has been explained
I think
by
3 to
my
be exact.
colleagues here. In
That's-
fact, the increase you've had an
There's 1,000 million in a billion, so that's $3,000 million. And the only objective, you know, keep the protectees alive, and try not to get any civilians killed in the process. Yeah, fail.
increase in real terms of 55%. As you're no doubt aware, staffing levels for those assigned to protect the president, former presidents, and other senior officials has decreased by about 350 between 2014 and today. Clearly, a lack of financial resources not to blame for the staffing shortage. In 2022, the Secret Service saw nearly half its workforce leave in 1 year. During the
Wow.
same year, it was ranked dead
goodness.
last among law enforcement agencies
wonder
in the best
why.
places to work in the federal government. Can you explain why your agency was so poorly rated and why so many staff left in
No.
just 1 year?
So with all due respect, I dispute the statistic of half of the employees leaving in 2020.
Well, ma'am, if it's a statistic, as you just said, I would imagine that Ms. Fox has the statistics in front of her.
22, I think that has
You?
been inaccurate data that's been reported out there. But what I can tell you
When
is,
all else
as I've
fails.
returned as the director of the agency,
The data's
we have had an
inaccurate.
increase in hiring and staffing and an increase in resources.
Well, then what's your fucking problem? Why did you fail so epically?
And we're committed to continue to hire so that we can be staffed appropriately to meet the dynamic mission that we have.
And I'm just saying, and I am a woman, so I'm not anti-woman, but I want, if it's me, I want the best person, the most capable, the most qualified, protecting my ass. And a woman who didn't look like she was too much taller than me. Just sometimes physical attributes alone should disqualify you. I'm sorry. I think it needs to be apples to apples. If you've got a lot of, males that are on these protective details, and I do know that the physical requirements to be a Secret Service agent, I know that they are not the same for women as they are for men. So don't tell me that they are both equally capable. And just so nobody accuses me of being anti-female, I believe that if a woman volunteers to serve in our military and she wants to put herself on the front line, I believe she should be allowed to, as long as she is just as capable. And let's face it, if you're on the front line, when I say capable, I mean you can shoot as well as the two on either side. So,
Well, you may want to dispute it, but it's out there. My understanding,
Good for you,
given the
Ms. Fox.
high profile failures and rotten culture at the Secret Service during your nearly 2-year tenure,
Rotten culture.
why should the American people
She's
have
not
any
mincing words.
confidence in
I
your
like this
ability to
lady.
lead the Secret Service to perform its zero-fail mission to protect our senior leaders?
The Secret Service has an incredible culture. Our men and women place service over self. They come in every day,
Except for you, of
willing to
course.
risk their lives for our protective mission. And they work investigations that thwart people who would do harm to children, child exploiters. We have an incredible mission, and our culture is
pull out the
we will
kid.
get the job done no matter what.
Well, those
That's your
on the front
job.
line certainly have
It's like, what do you want a fucking medal? That is your job. I mean, most people don't go to work. I mean, if you go to McDonald's and you're serving up Happy Meals, you're not getting a medal because you served up Happy Meals. It's your job.
a great culture, and they were willing to risk their lives for President Trump. But I'm not sure the leadership at the agency has this right kind of culture. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Chair now
Go,
recognizes
Ms.
Mr. Conley
Fox.
from Virginia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well,
I just looked and saw it. Look at the picture of Trump right behind Jim Jordan's head. I'm sure she loves sitting there looking at that.
I hope the American people do appreciate the incredible daily risks Secret Service agents take on our behalf. You mentioned there are 36 regular
That's the job.
clients you've got that you protect constantly.
Mm-hmm.
But I was participating in the NATO summit just 2 weeks ago. We had 32 heads of government and heads of state, plus
Yeah.
visiting heads of state and
What's
heads of
that have
government.
to do with why she's
Presumably,
here?
you provided protection for all
He's
of
going to
them.
white knight for her. He's
Just-
going to try
just
and
saying.
do a little damage control
Um,
to what is
Help
clearly
us
gross
understand,
incompetence.
however, I will stipulate that there's an ongoing investigation. You don't want to go into too much detail on that until
Or
you've been able
any
to
detail?
ascertain all the facts and analyze what they mean. You can understand, however, the anxiety we and the American public have about how could this happen and how can we ensure it can't recur. Now, there are some things my friends on one particular side of the aisle don't really want to talk about.
Hi, Death
like
by Chocolate.
AR-15s and access to them by a
Voices,
20-year-old
are you
or
opening up our
anybody for that
sweatshop?
matter.
what you're
Presumably,
doing?
Director Cheadle, the ubiquity of weapons, guns in America, especially assault weapons
Oh,
or
here we go.
semi-automatic weapons, that's helped
Hi,
your job
Nikki.
and the mission of your agencies, right? It's made it less complicated, isn't that true?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your question.
Real simple. More guns, especially dangerous ones, have made your job protect people easier. Is that not right?
Huh? Sir, I think you misspoke. More guns for them, that would probably make it easier. More guns for the public, I think it would make it harder. Am I lost?
I think from every.
Director Cheetah, this is simple English. More guns do they make your job more complicated or less complicated?
Well, who's in whose
protecting
hands, sir?
These 36 clients and visiting heads of state.
We
and
don't
heads
give
of
a
government
shit
to
about the
what?
36 fucking clients from NATO.
I think the Secret Service needs to take into account.
I didn't ask
the
that.
state that they're in.
I'm
Ooh.
sorry. I asked a simple question.
Yeah,
Which
well, not
deserves
so
a
simple. We
answer.
just need a little
The
clarification.
ubiquity of guns,
Okay.
dangerous weapons
Uh-huh.
in America, like AR-15s.
Okay.
Has that made your job, that is to say, the mission of the Secret Service, easier or more difficult?
In
I
whose
think the
hands?
threat environment for protecting our Secret Service protectees is always difficult.
Oh, for
and that's
fuck's sake,
dynamic,
Miss
and it's always-
Cheadle, non-responsive. It's a yes or it's a no. I'm going to hold you in contempt the next time you give a non-responsive answer.
evolving.
We stipulate it's always difficult. Again, this is a simple one.
See, she's getting reamed by Republicans and Democrats alike. And I, for one, I love this unity. There we go. Hands across the aisle.
Does the ubiquity of guns
Oh.
make your job easier or more difficult?
Sir, could you just please refine your question? I need to know. Do you mean in the civilians' hands or in our hands?
Today.
Not that she's going to answer
I
anyway.
understand
Then
the
why
Second
isn't
Amendment
she?
rights of individuals.
That's it, Ms. Cheadle. Non-responsive. You are now in contempt of court. And I will consider the death penalty if you don't get your shit together.
Didn't ask that question. I'm not questioning the Second Amendment. I'm asking a simple analysis, Director Cheadle. And I can tell you, you're not making my job easier in terms of assessing your
In trying to white knight for you.
continuing on as director. Please answer the question. You're the head of the Secret Service.
Damn,
You're
Mr.
speaking on behalf
Damn,
of
the
8,000 members who put
gentleman
their lives on
from
the line.
Virginia.
We just had a failure by your own
Crimes and
admission.
Fashion
Do
recognizes the
guns make your
gentleman
job
from Virginia.
easier or harder?
I think the job of the Secret Service is difficult. on every day,
Non-responsive.
And we need to make sure that we are mitigating all threats.
Why will
whether
she
that
not
be
answer that
That isn't
question?
my question.
personnel.
That is not my question.
I mean, this bitch will not answer the simplest question, yes or no. Why is that? I mean, I don't get it. Like, ma'am, this guy, he's on your team. I mean, he's a Democrat. But like, this is a simple, I just don't understand why she is so uncooperative. Why not, throw a bone when you can and just answer fucking yes or no? Because the more she does this shit, the more obvious it is. Like, bitch, are you like, how can you be this obtuse? You're digging a hole for yourself across party lines. This never happens. Never. They can't get together on anything. And that says a lot.
And now I think you're evading the answer, which
Because
is
she
not a
is,
hard
sir.
one.
I am sorry that you feel that way, sir.
How else
What
could
the
I
fuck
feel,
is
Director
that?
Cheadle,
I'm sorry you feel that way.
when you're clearly avoiding a direct answer to a very
She's
simple?
very, she's very disrespectful. She does not seem to have a whole lot of respect for the people who pay her salary, us, or the oversight committee.
Of question.
I'm
We
trying-
almost lost a presidential candidate the other day. A 20-year-old
only
had
been 9
access
days
to his
since the
father's
event. We're
AR-15
still
and got on
gathering
top of a
information.
roof within 500 yards or feet of the podium. And I'm asking you, did the availability of that AR-15, which is replicated all across America, make your job harder or easier? And you're not willing to answer that question? And you think, and you wonder why we might have a lack of confidence in your continued ability to direct this agency?
Damn.
I understand your question, and that's the environment.
Well, if you understand my question, why not answer it?
Because it's the environment that the Secret Service works in every day.
Huh?
That doesn't tell me anything. That's the that's the
What does that
environment we
mean?
work in.
Exactly.
I had an attack on my office a year ago. I know a little bit about violence too.
Oh, I didn't
He
realize
came
that.
to kill me.
Oh, Jesus.
When he couldn't, he beat one of my staffers 8 times with a baseball bat on the head. We live with the threat of violence. But a simple answer from the director of the Secret Service would be helpful. And I'm sorry you've chosen to evade it. I yield back.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Grofman from Wisconsin.
Thank you. When this guy took the shots, he climbed a ladder to get on the roof, correct?
I'm unable
It's
to
only
answer
been
details
9
of exactly
days.
how the individual accessed the roof at this time.
Oh, for fuck's sake. What do you think? He repelled up there from a tree like Batman? Oh my God. Like, she will not answer the simplest thing. This bitch is doing herself no favors. And I predict she is going to be unemployed in short order. Because trust and believe, if this bitch thinks that she is exempt from, let's just say, the powers that be, the powers that basically have strong armed a sitting president out of running for reelection. Yeah. If you think you are more clever than the powers that be, you are sadly mistaken, ma'am.
Do you know when if he did use the ladder, do you know when the ladder was placed there? Was the ladder there 2 days
It's only
before,
9 days
just the night
out. We're
before?
still
Do you have
gathering
any information as to when
information.
the ladder got there?
I would like to be able to answer those questions. The
No, you
FBI is
wouldn't.
still conducting an
Oh,
investigation.
blame it on the FBI.
How did the
They're
rifle
fucking
get
incompetent
to the
too.
roof?
Under their current leadership.
Again, sir, at this time, I'm unable to answer questions to provide
Have
clarity.
they cleaned the roof since the assassination?
Oh, that's right. I remember hearing that an FBI agent cleaned the blood off the roof. That's not in the purview of even local law enforcement. When there's a crime, do you think that they go back and they clean up the mess? No. So why is the FBI doing that? That's a very good question. And I'm not a conspiracy. Let me tell you something. I am not a conspiracy person. I am the furthest thing from a conspiracy person. Sometimes my son, who is kind of a conspiracy person, let's see, what has he told me recently? That he doesn't believe we actually landed on the moon. And my husband actually kind of goes along with that. Me, I'm like, oh, God, save it. He thinks 9/11 was probably engineered by the government. That's the one where I lose my shit. I'm like, shut the hell up. Do not talk to me about that stupid shit. You know that I do not believe. I'm not a conspiracy person. However, in this case, let's just say I would not be at all surprised to find out that perhaps some people at the highest levels of our government, I don't know, maybe had a hand in this.
Have they cleaned the roof?
Right. Is
I-
anything
and I
done
don't
to the
wanna
roof?
think
Is it
that.
just like it was, whatever, 10
There's
days
some
ago
awful
or,
strange things that have happened
or,
here
or not? Is anything been done to the
that
roof?
kind of defy
I
logic.
don't have an answer for that.
You don't have an
Okay.
answer for anything.
Were President Trump's normal agents normally assigned to him there that day?
Yes,
There was these were the same agents that were always there.
yes, sir. The people that are assigned to his detail were working on that day.
Okay, there's stuff on the internet that
Hi,
says they
Wise
were not there
Angel.
that day, but these are the same agents who are routinely there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we know which agents fired the shots that finally took down the potential
Hey, Johnson, how
assassin?
are you?
Yes, sir, I do.
Can you give us those names or background of those agents?
I know
I
exactly
would
what
not
that's about.
offer their name up
That
in
is
this
one
setting,
of the
but
fucking
it was one of
crazier
our
things I've
technical
ever heard somebody
officers, our
sling
camera
at someone
snipers.
else on this platform.
Okay, so can we privately get
Like,
those
I don't
names
even know how
to the
you
committee?
say that to someone. It's
I am
fucking
certain that we can
absurd.
make names available privately.
And I'm sorry about
Okay.
that.
Do we know where all the
Clearly-
shots landed?
I might, you're
How,
not
first of all,
even
how
bothered
many
by
shots
this,
did that potential assassin,
I
how many
just think that's-
shots came out of the rifle?
It's like,
So again,
I just can't
I would
imagine
hesitate
saying
to
something
offer
like that to
information
someone.
as the
It's
FBI
fucking-
is
oh,
conducting
God.
an investigation.
Have we got the bullets from all the shots?
Again,
It's
that would be
only
the
been
responsibility of
days.
the FBI to collect that evidence.
Okay.
Oh, and you don't,
um,
ma'am, you don't, since you're the one in the hot seat, you haven't maybe like picked up the ring-a-dingy and said, hey, can you tell me how many shell casings did y'all find out there? She's so full of shit.
Do we have any, do we have the correspondence from the shooter? Has that been recovered from his phone, whatever?
Yes, at least one of them.
Again, I would have to defer you to the FBI for details on that
Ma'am.
investigation.
I know that as just a civilian. I've heard it on countless media outlets that it has been confirmed that the FBI got into at least one of his phones. But you don't know? Oh, okay, ma'am. Sure.
Okay. You've spent some time trying to change the makeup of the Secret Service. Okay, you feel
DEI.
there whatever, too high a percentage are men. Does this affect at all who you are hiring for the Secret Service?
No.
I've spent my time as the director trying to increase the number of people that we hire in the Secret Service so that we have the best and the brightest. And that's been my concentration as the director.
As it should
Okay,
be.
you ever not hiring men because of your desire to hit certain targets?
I am hiring the best qualified candidates that put in an application that want to work for our great organization.
Non-responsive, Your Honor.
Okay. Next question.
He's too easy.
The shooter obtained a direct sight of
Let me get
President
up there
Trump
and
from,
drill this
from
bitch.
the position on the rooftop. I assume that is not something that should ever happen. It should never happen. Do you want to
I'm just
elaborate a
gonna say
little
no.
on how that happened or what you wish you had done differently?
It's
or
only
would do
been 9
differently next time
days.
there's a Trump rally.
Again, sir, the facts of this particular event are still unfolding. 9 days, there have been a number of
There's
reports that
9
have been out
days.
there.
How did I know?
So I do not want to provide information that perhaps would contradict something that has been erroneously reported or is not
What?
factual.
Okay.
But there clearly was a mistake, and we will take every effort to make sure that this never happens again.
How are you going to do that?
Could you elaborate why you want 1/3 of the Secret Service to be women?
Because she's a DEI lady.
I've never stated that I want 1/3 of the Secret Service to be women.
30% or something. You had some target, no?
Oh, semantics. But that's how slimy I believe she is. When he said 1/3. I guess if you want to get down to semantics, well, she can say, I never said I wanted that. At least he's smart enough to, what did he say? 3,000? What is that what he said? 3,000? 30,000? Oh, whatever.
Okay,
Would gentlemen yield?
Even though they mean the same thing.
I'll yield.
What was, Director, what was erroneously reported? You said, to Mr.
Oh,
Grothman's
Jim
question, you
Jordan's
said
back.
something was erroneously reported. What are you referring to?
I'm referring to their,
His question was in the context of the shooter using a ladder to get on the building. What was erroneously reported? Because you won't tell us anything, but you'll tell us something that wasn't reported accurately.
Oh, very good point.
I'm saying,
Mr.
sir, that there have
Jordan.
been a number of reports that are out there that have been speculation. And until we have the actual
Well, that's what happens when you won't be forthcoming with any, facts and details about what happens.
facts,
People,
I don't
run
want to
wild.
report anything that would contradict
Bitch, you don't want to report anything, period. Let's just, call it like it is.
speculation that has been out there.
Thank
Oh,
you, gentlemen,
yes.
for yielding.
In an effort to
Chair
keep
recognizes Mr.
speculation down.
Morte from Illinois.
I'll just say nothing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Ranking Member, for bringing us together this morning. One question I get asked a lot from my constituents is, what can Congress actually do to stop this from happening again? And I'd like to share
Probably
a graphic from a
nothing.
very recent study
Well,
conducted
you could fire her. That would be a good start.
by Professor Robert Pape,
Force her
a
out.
world-renowned expert in combating political
Defund her
violence.
salary.
The graphic shows that 74% of Americans want this Congress to come together to denounce political
Come
violence of all stripes. And you can tell it's across party lines. I commend the chair and ranking member for putting
And
out
that
the
too.
statement the other day condemning political violence. And to further this effort, I'd like to ask all my colleagues to join Dr. Brad Wenstrup and me in introducing a resolution that we think can secure unanimous
Wow.
House passage in
Raja
deploring and condemning political violence. And we will
Krishnamurthy.
be circulating that
Krishnamurthy?
resolution
Krishnamurthy?
shortly.
I thought
Director Cheadle,
I had a lot of
as you
letters in my
know,
name.
the shooter began shooting at 6:11 p.m.
Vanna,
Eastern.
I do not
on
need to
July
buy a vowel.
13th. NBC reported that at 5:51 p.m.,
Oh, if it's
20 minutes
NBC, never
before
mind.
the shooting began, the state
Probably
police
inaccurate.
informed the Secret Service of their concern. Now, the rally was not paused at that point, correct?
No.
And according
Oh!
to NBC,
Time
just
number
2 minutes
4.
later, at
That
5:53
she's answered,
p.m.,
yes or no?
the Secret Service notified its snipers about the gunman. The rally wasn't paused at that point either, correct?
No.
Let me show you
Why
some
would we
video
do that?
footage by rally goers. If you could play the video,
We thought maybe he was just up there, maybe bird watching.
the screen up here.
Idiot.
This was taken 2 minutes before the shooting started. If you
God,
could
look at
turn up the
that.
volume.
And I have actually seen it was on X. I don't have X, my husband does. And my husband, and I think he's right. My husband said that all the news stations, that X is far ahead of them when it comes to news and, live breaking news. And yeah, he showed me a picture of this kid. Well, what was left of him on top of that roof. It was pretty gruesome. But yeah, I have zero fucks to give for him. I think it would have been nice if we could have kept him alive and, maybe, oh no, he couldn't go to Leavenworth, could he? That's only for military. I guess I was thinking because it was a political. Yeah. Listen to that. I mean, this is so unbelievable that all these civilians see this, but sharpshooters do not. Unreal.
Ma'am, that doesn't look like suspicious behavior. That looks like threatening behavior to me.
Yeah.
And the rally wasn't paused at that point either, correct?
I can tell you, as I stated earlier, sir, that the moment that the shift surrounding the president were aware of an actual threat.
That's a threat.
When would
right
that
there.
have been,
The guy's
ma'am?
on
When
the
the
roof
first
and everything.
bullet left the barrel of the gun? What? I
everybody
mean,
yelling at him
Jesus.
Yes.
and directing the officer's attention to him. The rally was not paused at that point, correct?
We are currently still combing
Jesus. It's
through
only been 9
communications
days.
and when communications were passed.
Well, I can point you to this communication. It's
she
2 minutes
knows.
before the shots
course she
started
knows.
ringing out. Director Cheadle, yes or no?
Ma'am, if you don't know the answers to these questions, what exactly do you know? Because for one who is seemingly so uninformed, I mean, I think I could do your job and be more effective at it if all your answers are, in keeping with the oath you took, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. This bitch is full of shit.
Was there ever a moment where the Secret Service actually considered pausing the rally?
The Secret Service would have paused the rally had they known
my
or
God.
been
So the
told
answer is
there was
no.
an actual threat.
The answer is
The
no.
nut job climbing up on the
Correct.
roof was not enough to.
I can
I
speak
wonder
to
what's
you
going on there.
in generalities.
No, I don't want
I don't
generalities. I
know
want
all of the
specifics.
communications.
The
You're not
answer
gonna
is
get it
no.
from her.
You did not consider pausing the rally, correct?
Correct.
The people that are in charge of protecting the
You're in
president on that day
charge.
would never bring the former
The
president
buck
out
stops with
if there
you,
was
bitch.
a threat that had been identified.
Isn't that what
Well,
you
they
said?
did because we've now identified 3 points in the 20 minutes before the shooting that the threat emerged. Let me point you
See,
to
this is
something
what they
else,
wish they could say.
uh,
This is the
which is the
commentary they
building
wish
that the
they could
shooter was
do.
perched
on
on, seen
mainstream
here.
media.
This building is called the AGR building. I'm sure that you're familiar with it.
Oh, we're all
It's no
familiar
more
with it
than
now.
150
And in fact, for anybody who may not know, the AGR building where this nut job was on top of the roof with his AR. Well, did you know that there was a bunch of law enforcement inside the building? Yes. That was some kind of I guess, a quasi command center. Isn't that
yards from the stage
interesting?
where Donald Trump stood. Yet the security perimeter was drawn such that the AGR building was placed outside of it.
Ooh,
Director
y'all, we're
Cheadle,
having
according to the Washington Post,
funny
the
weather here today, and-
AR-15
oh,
styled
God.
rifle used in
can
the
have it
shooting
while we're
had a
joined.
range of 400 to 600 yards.
This morning I
And
felt
therefore,
horrible.
the AGR building was clearly
up.
within rifle range of the stage, correct?
Yes.
NBC News has reported that in the days before the rally,
8
the
inches
Secret
tall.
Service had
My
identified
head
the
just
building as a
there.
vulnerability that required
I
special
thought that would be
attention.
such a
Correct?
bad thing.
That's reporting from NBC.
Yes,
So I am still looking into an active investigation.
I know, but it's been 9 days. I mean, you
God-
should know.
God,
that,
don't we
right?
know?
And yet, despite the
Oh,
fact
she
that
knows,
the
trust
AGR
me.
building
That's
was
the one
in
thing she
rifle
knows,
range
9
of the
days.
stage and it was flagged as a vulnerability, this building was put outside of the Secret Service's security perimeter. And I respectfully submit the Secret Service must expand its security perimeter
You
to
think?
account for the kinds of weapons that can be used outside the perimeter to endanger the protectees.
I mean, I don't know how helpful that's going to be when we can't even, you see a dude who does not belong climbing on a roof. That didn't get their attention. What is the outer perimeter like? How's that going to matter I mean, I think it'd be more important within the direct line of sight to not have non-law enforcement crawling up on a roof.
Inside the perimeter, ma'am. Let me turn your attention to some conspiracy theories that have been circulating and ask you to comment on them. First, you
she's
have
not
not
gonna
found
wanna do
evidence that
that,
the incident was
you
a
know.
staged shooting, right?
Correct.
And you haven't found evidence that this was a result of a conspiracy of high-ranking government officials, correct?
Correct.
And you have not found evidence that this incident was in fact
As if we fucking believe anything she says. I wouldn't believe if she told me water was wet, I'd get another opinion, much like Betty.
directed or perpetrated by a foreign state or entity, right?
And that's the last question, but I'll let the director answer that.
She won't
Not at
answer
this
it.
time.
Thank you. I
No.
yield back.
Gentlemen's
That
time's
number
expired. Chair
6 or
now
number
recognizes
7 that
Cloud
she's
from
actually
Texas.
answered.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm there was only one counter sniper who took one shot. Is that
At least he
We
made it
had multiple
count.
counter sniper teams.
yeah,
Available
on the
that day.
premises? But is only one took one shot? Is that correct, or only one?
She's
Correct.
not going to tell. Oh,
How many
number
spent
7.
shell casings were
maybe?
found on the roof?
She doesn't know.
Again, I would have
It's
to
only been
defer you
9
to the
days.
FBI's criminal investigation.
Okay, word is that the car was rigged with explosives.
Again, sir, I'd have to defer you
To
to
the
the
FBI.
FBI's investigation.
Okay, you're not curious about,
Mr. Cloud, she knows exactly. She knows all the answers to these questions.
you don't communicate with them?
Of course she does.
No. Okay.
She's-
CNN
oh my
reported
God, what a
that
fucking liar.
Secret Service did not sweep the building. The shooter was used to shoot President Trump and other attendees. Is that true or false?
So we are conducting a mission insurance investigation and will depend on the information that we obtain from our investigations.
Okay. The Secret Service knew there was a suspicious person anywhere from 8 minutes before President walked on stage to 30 to 60 minutes. We have different reports. Was President Trump or his team notified of the threat?
I think there's a difference and a distinction between suspicious.
Suspicious person.
And
You,
threat.
ma'am, redundant. You have already sung from this songbook. We got it. That's not the question. Non-responsive.
Yeah.
So we are going back and looking at communications to know when the information about a suspicious person was passed to Secret Service personnel.
I'm pretty
Okay, but
sure
was
we can all
President Trump or
agree
his
that
team notified?
that nut
Again, we are
job
going back and looking to
qualified
make
as
sure that we
suspicious.
have the exact
And
information
threatening.
of when those notifications were made and who those notifications were made
not
to.
soon enough.
Okay. I think it's troubling for a lot of us that the number one question everyone in America is wondering is why was the roof left open? And after 9 days, we should at least maybe have
There's the
a
9
little
days.
bit of that information. And when you come to this committee hearing,
We
and you
do.
don't
She does.
have anything to say about that, it's very, very
I
troubling.
understand your
Did
frustration,
you review the
sir.
security plan for this event?
No.
I personally do not review security
Oh,
plans
okay.
for
So wait a
events
minute.
that take place across
Even-
the country.
For a former president and a current nominee for president and a very, we'll just say, controversial figure, you don't even want to take a little look see, make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Well, ma'am, what exactly do you do if not that? Oh, wait, I forgot. You're 32, what is it? 32 private like NATO clients or some bullshit. I know you got a lot to do. You got a lot on your plate, Kimberly.
Any of them?
Oh, bitch, you are so fired.
We have a number of events that
Who's
take
the top
place.
level official who reviews the
Yeah.
security
Oh, that's
plans?
a great
There-
question.
There's a number
Mr.
of
Cloud.
people that review
Just
security
not,
plans.
Who's
as
ultimately
just
ultimately
not
responsible
the
for signing
one
off
who
on
the
security
buck
plan?
stops with.
It's a conjunction of personnel. There are people on the ground, there are supervisors on the detail,
They
there are
failed.
people at headquarters.
So there's not one person who says, okay, this is good.
Yeah,
We're-
signs
it's
off on
copacetic,
it.
we're going for it.
I think much in the way that we build our security plans where they are
No doubt
multi-layered.
there's teams working
Non-responsive.
different aspects of it, but ultimately, isn't there an individual who signs off on the plan?
It's
Much
just
like
not her.
how we design our security plans, they're multi-layered, there are multiple
Non-responsive.
layers.
So there's
of
no
people.
accountability.
There is
is-
accountability, sir.
Who is it?
There's- This is whether it's the FBI or Fauci or anything, it's time after time after time, these multiple layers of accountability turn into layers of plausible
because they're
deniability and
fucking
agency after
liars
agency after
who are
agency
trying to
that's
cover their
got to
own
be
ass.
fixed because you keep coming here and expecting, yes, you're saying I'm responsible, but and you're accountable for it, but then there's nothing.
No, that's it. She
What do you
thinks
mean by
just
that?
by saying
I mean,
that,
you're
oh, okay.
saying you're going to keep your job, right?
Fuck her.
I assure you, sir, that if we determine through the course of our investigation that someone or
We already have.
people need to be held accountable, we will do so.
You need to be held accountable.
What level
Along
of,
with
if
anyone else who
President
failed.
Biden, God forbid, had been shot and killed, would you think that was worthy of resignation?
Oh, great question.
I would do the same thing that I'm doing here, where I would want to make sure that we are conducting an investigation, that there
might
is
not-
continuity.
You
in
might not have that option,
investigation,
honey.
And that we could find the
You
answers
do not
to
think
what
the
happened.
assassination of somebody under your detail is worthy of resignation?
I think that this event was tragic and deserves answers.
So she's your typical
The
fucking
thing that you've
bureaucrat.
said so far is that you want to make sure that this never happens again. The thing is, everyone in America knows that's not the job description that you're tasked with. The job description you're
Exactly.
tasked with is to make sure it never happens, period.
Mhm.
One of your goals in the strategic plan is to champion diversity, equity, inclusion, and
Oh, yes,
accessibility. You
DEI.
accomplished the accessibility part.
How about we
What
just,
standards?
can we just find the best person for the job? I don't get it. I mean, I think if you're a fucking normal person, you're a normal thinking person. You just want the best person for the job. I could not care less. As I stated in the beginning, I don't care what race you are. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what political party you're from. I don't care what your sexual preference is. I don't care. Just give me the best person for the job. That's all most people want. Unless perhaps you're not the best person for the job, but you still want that job anyway. So you're going to fall back on, it's not fair. We need more fill in the blank.
Do you keep the same standards for all applicants and all?
Oh, I
or does
seriously
every
doubt it.
Secret Service agent meet the same qualifications, or do you have different?
No, they
standards
do
for different
not.
people?
Not as far
Yes,
as
sir.
physical.
Everyone who moves through the application
Bullshit.
process has to meet the same standards to become a special agent.
No, the
Okay.
physical requirements for the men and
trouble
the
I think we're
women are
having with
not
right
the
now,
same.
so far, you gave a lame excuse
Not
for
as it's
sloped
been
roof.
explained to me.
You said that local law
And
enforcement's
if I'm
job was to
wrong,
cover
I'll
up
stand corrected.
the building before backtracking on that.
Mhm.
We were told that President Trump's team did not ask for security before you backtracked on that. You haven't provided the
Louise.
audio recording that
How
this
are you?
committee, the chairman, requested that it was due
Who's
Thursday.
making up words?
You didn't give us advance copy of your opening statement, but yet there was reporting on it somewhere else. There seems to be more information from YouTube videos than you're able to provide for us.
Ouch.
And it
Ouch.
begs the question to anyone, you're in charge of the investigation of your own failure. So
Yeah,
how is anybody
exactly.
in America supposed to be able to trust
How nice
the
would that
results of that
be?
investigation as being anything transparent and genuine?
That's the last question, but please feel free to answer the question.
Up until now, I thought only the pharmaceutical industry was like one of the only industries that gets to self-police.
Sure, I've been a Secret Service agent for
Secret
nearly
Service
30 years.
as well.
I have
Add
led
them
with
to the list.
integrity, and I follow our core values of duty, justice, honor, loyalty, and
Fuck
courage.
off.
And I am doing that in this case.
You are
and
not
I assure this
honoring,
committee that I will provide
the
answers
victims
when we have
from
a
9
full
days
and
ago,
complete
ma'am.
report, in addition to cooperating with all of the other investigations.
I don't
that
think
are
it's
on.
very honorable to sit up here and lie through your teeth or just fucking evade the simplest of questions.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Khanna from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the chair and the ranking member for convening this hearing on a bipartisan basis. I join them in condemning the horrific assassination attempt on the former president. I am relieved for the sake of the country that he wasn't seriously hurt and that he survived. And my thoughts with him and his family during such a traumatic event. I also want to express condolences to Corey Comprator's family and recognize his heroism in saving his daughter's lives and to the victims of that awful event. Now, Director Cheadle, would you agree that this is the most serious security lapse since President Reagan was shot in 1981?
It's only
of the
been
Secret
9
Service?
days. We're
Yes,
still
sir, I would.
gathering information. Oh my God.
And, you know,
Number 8.
you know what Stuart Knight did
Bitch.
when he was in charge at the time of the Secret Service? You know what he did afterwards?
He remained on duty.
He resigned. He
Until he
resigned.
didn't.
And Stuart Knight was not a Democratic appointee or a Republican appointee. Look, I'm not questioning your judgment. I just
am.
don't think this is partisan. If you have an assassination attempt on a president, a former president, or a candidate, you need to
I want to
resign.
surgically remove
That's what
that
Stuart Knight did. He
giant
was a
mole
Republican
on her
appointee,
nose.
and he took
Can't we just, like,
responsibility.
just
And
a little
I think you
scalpel,
need to
just slice it
reflect,
right
this
off.
is not a question
Or
of you,
maybe-
it's a question of the
I'm a
American people. You
dermatologist,
cannot
burn
go
them.
leading a Secret Service
Oh, yes, you
agency
can.
when there is an assassination
Says
attempt
who, sir?
on a presidential candidate.
And he's a damn flaming Democrat from California. And even he gets it, ma'am.
I would say that about anyone who is running. And so I guess my question to you is, what's the difference between your position and what Stuart Knight did?
It's only been 9 days out.
What I will tell you,
We're
sir, is
still
that I am
gathering
dedicated to finding the
information.
answers to
No,
what
you're
happened.
not.
And like every
No,
Secret
I would
Service,
say, ma'am, I would submit the exact opposite. You are probably dedicated to covering up all of the misdeeds and abject failures of you and the people on the ground there.
agent, we don't shirk from our responsibilities. I will remain
Really?
on and be
That's all
responsible
you've
to the
done.
agency.
Ma'am, just saying you're responsible does not make it so.
To this committee, to the former president,
Oh,
and to the
bitch.
American public.
But is there
Yeah.
a reason you wouldn't just do what
As you sit up here
Stuart
and
Knight
don't
did
answer
after the
any
Reagan
pertinent question.
assassination attempt?
And
I
we're going
believe
to
that I
break away
provided
from
an
this
answer.
hearing for just a moment for live
There's
coverage of the
nothing more
U.S. Senate. Today, members are holding a brief session. No votes expected.
Oh, I guess they have already spliced the breakout. What time is it? Where are we here? Oh, there we go. Okay. Whoops.
President Reagan was shot in
Oh,
1981
I'm sorry, you
of the
guys.
Secret Service.
I went the
Yes, sir, I
wrong
would.
way.
And
Come on back. Come on. Oh, look, she is she working at TGI Fridays? Is she on break from?
The Senate will come to order. The clerk will read a communication to the Senate.
No.
Washington, D.C., July 22nd, 2000. The site security plan is generally drafted by
I'm
the
not gonna
site
go back,
supervisor and the
sorry.
site agent, probably out of the Pittsburgh district office.
Well, hell, he
Did they
knows
take into
more than
account
she
the
does.
credible threat against President Trump?
Our personnel take into account the threats that are
Then
out
why
there.
would they leave a building? And I will correct the distance that's been quoted. It was about 140 yards with clear line of sight to the president. Why was that building not occupied on the roof? I mean, you could have put
It was
Barn Fife
occupied
on the roof
inside.
and kept somebody from getting up there. So why wasn't that done?
It's only
The plan
been
that
9
was
days
developed
out.
that day encompassed a number
ma'am.
of security.
Wait a minute. That day, they waited until the day of the event. Okay, yeah.
The issue is the site supervisor, the
He's not
site
having
agent,
any of her bullshit.
and the special agent in charge, who I think signed off on the plan, did not include that in the inner perimeter, and they didn't have a plan to secure the building. As I understand it, the Butler County ESU unit was situated on the second floor of a building next to that.
I'm
but
going to
they
let
didn't
this run
have
for
a clear
just
line
a
of sight of the
second,
roof.
and I need to
The
take
angle
this
was
call.
too severe. The photograph that was taken of the young man, of the shooter, when he had the rangefinder, was taken at 5:15. It wasn't until 5:38 that photograph was transmitted to the Secret Service sniper units. I don't understand the lack of interoperability here in the communication process. I don't understand why people didn't perceive that as a credible threat. The
Hi,
video
Toby.
that
Sorry.
Mr. Christopher Morphy had shown there was clearly a credible threat. So how is it that all of these mistakes could be made? How many explosive devices were found on or near the site?
Again, I would have to defer you to the
Oh,
FBI.
Madam, I believe
Details
they
of
were
that.
in his car, and there, I think there might have been one near a main gas
She
line.
will not answer the simplest questions.
It wasn't just the fact that he had.
I don't
a
understand what does she think this is doing for her case? And like I said, just because she's a defiant, unaware bitch who thinks that just because she says I'm not resigning, that means she's going to have her job after 7:00 tonight. If she thinks that her will is going to go further than the powers that be, she's sadly mistaken. And if they want, and when I say they, I don't know exactly who they comprises, but if they want her gone because there is a huge public outcry, once, although I got to tell you, I mean, with the exception of maybe 2 Democrats, this has been unified across party lines. Everyone is incredibly frustrated with her and would love to be saying the things to her that I'm saying. And once they start getting a lot of blowback from their constituents, they don't want that, because all these people worry about, kind of like why they got rid of Biden. It's because of what they call the down ballot. It's all the smaller races for Senate, House of Representatives. Because much like YouTube, when it comes down to brass tacks, everybody is looking out for number one. So I don't know how she thinks, being this indignant, defiant bitch, sitting here like this. It's so arrogant. I don't know how she thinks that this is going to help her keep her job.
Rifle. It was the fact that he had the ability to inflict enormous harm, enormous numbers of.
Nobody in the government wants to look like they're fucking incompetent, despite the fact that many of them are. But this, this is not a good look.
Casualties had those devices exploded.
Plus, you got to remember, if y'all don't think that all of our enemies are watching this, Vladimir Putin, Iran, Palestinians, Hezbollah. I mean, if y'all do not think that they are watching this, and we are, in my opinion, we look like we are in a position of weakness in this country. We've got a senile, feckless old fool who, by the way, riddle me this. How is it that he's too inept, senile, etc., to run for re-election, even though I promise you he was going to carry on business as usual until the powers that be, call them whatever you want, call them the fucking Illuminati, call them Nancy Pelosi, I don't care what you call them. I don't know what to call them, but I know they exist. And if you don't think that he was told in no uncertain terms that life's going to get real difficult for, I don't know, maybe your son and your brother, maybe you won't be around long enough to pardon your son. So we got him. I mean, if you ask my husband, he'll tell you it's Obama's third term. I said, what can you imagine Kamala Harris being the president? He said, yeah, it would then become Obama's fourth term. And I voted for Obama, by the way. This country is a mess right now, and we look weak. And if you don't think our enemies are watching all this and seeing this country in chaos, our politics are in absolute chaos, and we got this stupid bitch who's in charge of the safety of the president, the vice president, Donald Trump. I would imagine that extends to the family, etc., etc. We look weak. She needs to go, and Biden's already going. But yeah, if he's too senile to, or whatever word they want to use, but we know what it really is, to run for re-election, but he's perfectly fine to carry out the rest of his term. No, I don't think so. And a lot of Republicans are calling for him to resign. And you know what that means. Kamala would become the president. And while I also agree that Biden is not fit, he hasn't been fit. And if you've been paying attention, this is not a surprise to anybody who's paid attention to what's been going on since he was elected. But my only problem with, pressuring, well, hey, sorry, if you can't do that, then you can't do this. I would not be comfortable with her being the president because I don't know that she's much more competent than he is. And I don't know how I feel about giving her. What it would do is it would give her a little, like a trailer or a preview to the public of how she would conduct herself as the president of the United States. Because if they get him to resign, that's exactly what would happen. So I have mixed feelings about that one. And listen, it's clear that he has not been running anything for quite a while. And I do believe it probably has been Obama. I don't, let's just hope to God better him than Joe.
I want to know also.
So now you guys
when
have gotten a little
when your
peek
agents
of
conduct a
what my husband and I talk about when we're sitting on the couch watching the news, because this is pretty much how it goes. And I just love that I have had a chance to review someone else besides the YouTube clowns.
site review, are they fully informed of all of the threats that are being made?
Hey,
against,
Glory, how are you? Hi,
the-
France.
The principle that they're protecting.
Ella Bella, how are you?
What I
Oh
can tell
my
you is that when
God.
our agents go out to conduct an
You know
advance,
what?
their whole goal is to
I
ensure
think the only other reason, if she becomes the nominee, not that I think she's the most qualified candidate, but do you know what kind of backlash there will be if they skip over her in favor of someone like Newsom or Bashir? Oh boy, that'll be fucking chaos like we haven't seen in a long time. I think one of the main reasons that it'll be her is because Joe's war chest, my understanding is those funds can only transfer to Kamala because she's a vice president. If they just pluck Joe Schmo, whoever, as the candidate, I do not believe that war chest just transfers over to them. So that's something for them to consider as well. Although George Soros and all the other, big donors, listen, I believe that George Soros has bought and paid for a whole hell of a lot of chaos, social justice warrior bullshit, all funded, well, I shouldn't say all, but in large part funded by George Soros money. And they will be happy along with George Clooney and who else? Since when did we get to a place where fucking celebrities are kind of like running politics? Not that they're running things, but I'm sorry, money talks in politics. And when you can, have a fundraiser that raises what, $30 million in a matter of hours, one fucking rubber chicken dinner. I'm sorry. Go make movies. You get paid an obscene amount of money. Stay the fuck out of politics. But no, that's not the way we roll anymore. Oh, this place is a mess. Sorry, tangent.
I understand what the goal is. The failure
I'm
to
not
secure
even
that
like a
building not only
political,
put the president,
rainmaker
former
like
president's
Betty
life in
is.
danger, it put the,
I'm sure
the
Betty's giving
lives of
great
individuals in
commentary
the
on
crowd
this.
in danger as well. I mean, the Reagan shooting, there were
I
other
hope she
people
sees my
shot
title.
at that time as well.
And you know what? I actually kind of
And the
thought maybe
secret-
I should challenge Betty to some kind of political debates. Wouldn't that be fun? Oh, I'm mulling that over. I might actually do that. Hey, Mama Bear, and please don't get it twisted. I do not claim to be any kind of I wouldn't say I was a political junkie, but I would say that I'm probably a little more informed than the average bear because I have the luxury of being able to watch a lot of news and political commentary. And I try and watch it from different channels, not just Fox. But it's, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to listen to people that just fucking infuriate you and are lying sacks of shit. So, but I try, and I usually last about 4 minutes on MSNBC. And like some of them are not watchable. I can deal with Cuomo a little bit. He's not horrible. Let me tell you who I fucking cannot deal with. Don Lemon and that, oh my God, that Brian Seltzer. I'd like that fucking tweedledum asshole. Okay. The Channeling Eric channel are going to be channeling Trump's. What's that? What is that? I've never heard of that. Oh, God. All right, back to this bitch.
Service members' lives were in danger. So I don't understand how you can continue to stay in the position you're in when this was a failure of historic magnitude. 43 years without anything like this happening.
Oh my God.
And
that is,
and you failed in this case.
what a legacy, Miss
way.
Cheadle.
Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes Mr. Mfume from Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to commend you and the ranking member on your joint statement and for holding this hearing. That we
Okay,
might all
thank you. The glad
at least
handling, we
attempt
got
to
it.
try to get some answers. Some of us, Ms. Cheadle, grew up in an era not too unlike what we see today in terms of political violence. And some of us remember the
Civil
November
rights movement.
22nd,
Very
1963
violent.
assassination of President Kennedy. Some of us, like myself, remember 2 days later when Jack Ruby on live TV.
If you ever get the chance to go to Dealey Plaza and the book depository in Dallas, Texas, I highly recommend it. Yes, I have stood on the grassy knoll, and I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again because it bears repeating. After I was with my girlfriend, I actually went there to go see one of the 2 American stops of the Christian Dior exhibit. And it was Christian Dior under every head of design that has ever worked there since Dior started the house. It was fantastic. And the museum was very close to Dealey Plaza. It was at the Dallas Museum of Fine Art. And I'm so glad I went, because at first I was like, yeah, but it's very eerie. And when you go and they actually have a spray painted orange X on the road between the grassy knoll and, no, I think it's a prison. It's by the grassy knoll. There's, a spray painted X on the ground where he took the first bullet. When we were done, I love a good gift shop. So I'm like, oh, let's go in the gift shop. And it was the official JFK Memorial gift shop. And it is run by the Kennedy family. And as we're looking around, and it was very bougie. This was not, don't think like airport gift shop. Oh no. It was actually pretty cool. They had several items in this gift shop that were favorite things of Jackie Kennedy. And one of them were, what are those candles called? They're French. They're very expensive. They were selling those in there. I mean, I think they were like, I think they were about 125, 150 bucks. And, just like a 2-wick, it wasn't anything huge. There was some there was some books, very, very nice, like coffee table books, but there were other things that Jackie Kennedy liked. So we're looking around, and God, one of the main reasons I wanted to go in there was it's so fucking hot. It was like 110 out that day. So it wasn't just that I never let a shopping opportunity pass me by. I knew it would be air conditioned. So we go in there and I'm shopping, of course. And this is not a big place. And they're playing music. Hand to God. What song do you think came on the music? If you said Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend by Marilyn Monroe, you would be correct. I died. I looked at my girlfriend. I said, are you fucking kidding me? I said, I'm going to write Caroline Kennedy a letter. I think she needs to know about this. Can you imagine? I mean, it was yeah, it was quite ironic. Okay, back to Mr. Mafumi. Y'all, my voice is probably my voice is probably going to last not too much longer, but I'll go on as long as I can. Does anybody know, because we're not watching this in real time, do we know if they finished today? And if not, are they going to go on tomorrow? Oh, I hope so.
TV shot and killed Lee Harvey Oswald. We've seen over and over and over since that time these kind of attempts, whether it was the assassination of Martin Luther King or Bobby Kennedy, or the attempted attack on George Wallace in Laurel, Maryland.
Do you know that this bitch would not even authorize Secret Service protection for RFK Jr., who would be the son of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who was the brother of John F. Kennedy Jr. RFK was killed in the kitchen of a hotel he was doing a campaign event at. I want to say it was in Los Angeles, somewhere in California. And she wouldn't give him Secret Service protection, despite the fact that he comes from, his uncle was murdered and his father. They were both assassinated. And here he is, a Kennedy, running for office, and she wouldn't give him protection.
In 1981 of Ronald Reagan.
Horrible.
Our friend and colleague,
And he's a
Steve
Democrat.
Scalise shooting here
But I don't
in
care.
D.C. and the unfortunate attack on
He
Paul
deserves
Pelosi,
protection.
and now this matter regarding former President Trump.
I'm not a big fan of the Kennedy dynasty. But whatever you think of them, they sacrificed 2 family members to American politics.
Let me
And I
try
think
if I
that
might,
warrants
to take
Secret
another
Service protection
walk at this.
for RFK Jr.
People just
running
assume
for, I think,
that
president.
whoever is in charge takes
Despite
full
that's
responsibility
not a snowball's chance.
when
No,
there's
but-
never been, at least on this magnitude and scale, this sort of failure. So when members ask you, are you going to resign? And you say you have no intention to, they are perplexed, like many people who watch what's going on. And there's some things I just don't understand. Why was the building, the ARG building, placed outside of the perimeter when clearly it was close enough for someone to launch an attack?
Oh, yeah, my ribs are
So again, sir,
sore
we
from
are looking
huffing.
into all of the
It had
details
just
of
gone
how the
away and now
advance
it's
was
come back
comprised.
again.
But I
Oh.
can tell you that there was overwatch on that building provided that day.
Well, then why
By a
didn't you
drone?
see him on the roof?
I'm not going to get into the specifics of technology or assets that were
Okay.
used in
Well,
this forum.
I think it's fair to say the Overwatch failed.
Yeah,
Because the shooter got up
exactly.
on the roof and stayed there for a while, and people had pointed him out. So do you think that your Overwatch was a failure in that case?
I think that we need to know the full details to
Oh, for
understand
fuck's
how
sake.
this occurred.
And why
The
was
full details are 1 is dead, 2 are gravely injured, and a former president came within millimeters of being killed by an assassin's bullet. It was a fail.
the rooftop left
Dumb
naked to
bitch.
begin with? Can you tell us that, considering it was within the line of sight and so very close?
Again, I can't speak to the specifics of this particular event site.
You
but
can't
what I
speak
can
to the
tell you is
general
that
either.
when
What
the
can you
Secret
speak
Service
to?
develops an advanced plan, they take into account a number of factors when they're building their advanced.
Just not
If
fucking
there are
weirdos
buildings or
crawling on
areas
the
of
roof with a
concern,
assault rifle.
and Overwatch is one of those mitigations that they want to put in place, then they will cover off areas of responsibility.
I understand that, but the
Did we
shooter
just miss
came
the
to the
building?
attention of your
We forgot to
agency
give it
52 minutes before
somebody
the
to do
former president got to
Overwatch.
the stage. Did anybody get assigned to watch or cover that individual who had already been seen with
Apparently
a
not.
advanced finder on him and other suspicious matters? Was anybody assigned to track him?
So what I'd like to clarify is that a suspicious individual
I got that part.
Does
It's not a
not
threat.
necessarily mean
I
a
know.
threat.
of our personnel.
We got it,
And
honey.
again, having a rangefinder at an outdoor event.
Well, let me ask you this. When the
Well, was he trying to see how many yards it was between the fucking sand trap and the green? I mean, what are we talking here?
suspicious person was brought to the attention of the Secret Service, was anybody in the detail ordered to follow and stay with that suspicious person just because they might become a threat?
So we have a number of teams that are on the ground. And again, we are
Not
trying to
responsive.
verify the timelines of when those notifications were made to our personnel so that they could
You know all
assume the
that
responsibility of trying to
information.
track that individual.
Ms. Cheadle, there has been a lot of discussion, some of which
Cheadle, not to be
raised
confused
itself
with
earlier
cheater.
in this hearing about poor staff morale within your agency.
Why? She seems
And
like a fat,
I
like
have
she'd be a
the
great boss.
July 17th report of Government Executive, which is a credible reporting service for the federal government for employees.
Is that like
And
Playboard for
the
YouTube?
2023 ranking of places to work within the federal government showed, and this is through the Office of Personnel Management, that the Secret Service came in
OPM.
413th out of 459
Oh my
sub-agencies
goodness.
and agencies.
Who else? Who's
Can you
worse?
explain that?
Like
Certainly.
the Department of
What I can tell you
Sanitation?
is
Who-
the
like
Secret
who's worse
Service
than her?
is a difficult job.
No
It
shit.
challenges our employees daily.
Uh-huh.
It's holidays, it's weekends.
Also,
It's
just
no
like
leave
waitresses
But-
and
but-
bartenders or anybody in the
Madam,
service industry.
People come to work knowing that.
Uh-huh.
You do explain that
We
when
got
you
it.
hire
Yeah,
somebody. They
uh-huh.
know that.
Oh, and by the way, you got to be
It's
willing
the
to take
same with
bullet.
other agencies.
You good
They,
with that?
they miss holidays.
And
They
you don't
come
get
to
any
work at
tip.
odd hours. But to be worked, one of the worst places to work within the federal government,
that's saying a
413
lot.
out of 459.
Where was the IRS ranked?
I'm
just
I
wondering.
just need an explanation. What do you think?
Well, you're not
as
going to
the
get it from
director?
her, sir.
I think
And,
that this,
and that's the last question, but please answer Mr. Mfube's question.
No, she won't.
I think that this is a challenging job. I think that it's a challenging environment to be in law
I
enforcement.
know. Listen,
and
when
we
I
do
was a
have no-fail
bartender, I found
mission,
it to be a
and our
challenging
folks
job, but at
are
least I
tasked
got
with
tipped
that
and I
every
didn't have to
day,
be bullet.
365 days
You
of
know,
the year.
yeah,
But I
sometimes
can
you had
tell
to
you, I've
work
also taken a
nights,
number
weekends,
of
holidays.
measures since I've been the director to recruit and retain and stem the tide of attrition in our agency,
Ooh,
which will
stem the
hopefully
tide of
alleviate
attrition.
some of that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Sessions from Texas.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I join in the calls of both, all of our members to say thank you for doing this hearing on a bipartisan basis.
Don't mess with Texas.
Director, I'm not going to sit
I
there and
didn't
say
even
you
know
ought
he
to
was still
resign,
around.
but I am going to say that you have not given us confidence that you have
And
the
you should
ability
resign.
to
I'll say it.
understand what happened, to take the responsibility in terms of
Oh,
understanding.
I was thinking Jeff Sessions.
You've spent a number of years. How many years do you say you've been with the agency?
27.
29.
Oh, sorry,
Well, I
29.
spent
27
16
as an
years
agent.
with AT&T, moved 7 times with them, and had a really good feel about their
Do
operations.
you get like a free
how they
cell
work,
phone plan?
what was
Is that like a
acceptable,
part
who
of
was
the golden
responsible.
parachute
And
retirement
I've
package?
heard you say
I hope
today
so.
numbers of times,
That's the
well,
least they
you've
can
got to
do.
wait. Well, you've got to wait. Wait for the final report. When is the final going to happen?
Exactly. Never if she's got anything to do with it.
I
I
am
mean,
very
how long do we have to wait before you can give us credible answers? You've been there 28 years.
I would
You've had a few
say
days to
third,
be able to draw
until
your
hell
own
freezes over.
analysis
So
of this.
tackle it.
You should understand the entire process. You talked about being on the team, perhaps in Georgia. You have talked about your experience in this. You've talked about the professional nature of the agency. That I don't doubt. But the director, just
It's
like
you,
it was
ma'am.
when I ran my operations at AT&T, was responsible for making sure they worked. And in business, either
And
work
last I checked, nobody's
or it
died from their
doesn't
cell
work.
phone.
There's no in between. It either works or it does not work. And your job as the, in essence, administrator, the director, is to make sure it looks right and works. And I've not heard you say one thing about my analysis is, I have asked these questions. It's always, I've got to sit back and wait for someone else to decide that. So I'm going to ask you a question.
But the
that
buck
maybe you
stops with
can
her.
answer. Have any employees been disciplined for their role in Butler, PA?
It's only been 9
in-
days since this happened.
No, sir, not at this time. I am asking those questions.
So no
You
employee
are
has
the
been
one who needs to be
disciplined,
disciplined.
and no employee
Bye-bye.
has been placed in any position that would place their job in jeopardy, nor their standing in the agency.
We are still in the process of
That's
interviewing
not what I
people.
asked. You're the person that runs the place.
There you
You're the
go.
person that knows right from wrong, good from bad.
I
You've
don't
had
know
a
about
number
that,
of
Your
days,
Honor.
and now you come before this committee,
Calls for
knowing you're going to be
speculation.
before us,
Assumes
and
facts,
you've
not in
got to
evidence.
slough it off to someone else. Do you see where there was something that went wrong as a professional at an agency with 28 years, or do you have to count on someone else to give you the final report?
I see that something went wrong,
Excellent
and I've
question.
acknowledged that something went
Then
wrong.
what went wrong?
I
Was
need
the
to-
special agent in charge?
Oh,
not
he
doing
is
their
riding
job?
her like
Was
a
the
rented
shooter
mule.
not
I
was the
love
shooter
it.
given extra time? Was the sniper doing their job? I mean, these are things that people who've been around for
You know, it's interesting to me to note how just fucking dispassionate she is. And I think that's a little weird. I mean, she has been grilled, her integrity, her professionalism, her, I mean, I would say intellect. All of this has been called into question. The American public is furious. And she has sat there absolutely fucking just a blank. She has zero affect as far as I can see. Just she's totally flat. Her eyes, I mean, her eyes are like dead fish. She doesn't. I mean, I find it like really. I mean, there's been a lot of people who have sat in that hot seat who have not given answers, etc. Mark Zuckerberg comes to mind. Anthony Fauci comes to mind. Lots of people. I can think of lots of people. It's one thing to be a defiant asshole and to not answer the questions, but most of them had some emotion. She emotes nothing. And I mean, it's my opinion. You got to be a certain kind of person to be able to do that. And I'm not going to go any further with what kind of person I think you might have to be to have zero affect or any seeming emotion, especially in a situation like this. I mean, I find it troubling myself.
28 years can analyze quickly. I watched it live on TV. And then within
And the words she
minutes
says, who
saw
cares?
a number
The
of
fucking
facts
words
and
mean
factors
nothing.
that would
Because they're
have
coming
and
from,
should
like,
have been
something
known
that looks
by
like a
people
fucking
who
empty
were
vessel.
there. You've got 28 years. You're showing up here telling us and the American public, well, I've got to wait for the final answer. What is your evaluation?
I'm asking
F.
those same questions.
Well, no, you're
To
before
who?
the
I assure-
committee.
Who you
Tell
asking?
us
Yourself?
what went wrong.
What
A
is your
special
answer to
agent in
yourself?
charge, the person who was there. Tell us and don't try and play a shell game with us. Do you have the ability
I
to
like him.
effectively, as the director of this agency,
No.
to understand what went wrong and at least tell us,
No.
I do or don't know what I'm doing?
Ah!
And we come away with, and I'm not asking for you to
Vanna?
resign. I'm asking for you, if you've got this
Oh, no, wait.
experience,
That's
then
Alex
you should
Trebek.
be able
What
to say to
is
us,
don't know?
we know
Alex,
what
Daily
we
Double.
did wrong. It was a failure in our system, and we're
You
immediately
can be sure it
making
won't be a
these
failure of her.
corrections.
She'll
That's why you're
she'll
having a
pawn it off
difficult
on
time
somebody else.
with this group of members of Congress, because we saw it too.
I say keep
We've
that
seen
bitch
the
up there
things,
for a
but
week if that's
you
what it takes.
are the 28-year expert. You are the person that, and only you, that can make the changes. And I hear you say, well, I've got to wait for a final report before I, at 28 years experience,
And
that
she's a
is
lying sack
why
of shit.
we think
She
what
knows
you're doing,
everything
the answers
as she
you're giving
sits in
us
that chair.
are not correct, and you are
She's
not
just not
using your
going to fill
professional
in the
expertise.
people who
Mr. Chairman,
sign
I
her
will
paycheck.
allow her to respond.
She won't.
I am asking those same questions, sir. And I
Oh,
assure you, when I have a
off.
full and complete report of exactly what happened, there will be accountability.
You're going to come back?
And we will make changes.
Okay, okay, sure. Uh-huh.
But before I
Yeah.
recognize the question, just
Okay.
out of curiosity, Director, it's been 9 days.
Uh-huh.
Every American wants these questions answered. Do you have a ballpark?
You know what's sad?
estimate?
I think most of us know we're never going to get fucking answers. That's just the way it's going to be.
Of what Mr. Sessions asked, you would be able to answer
So I can tell you,
time-wise?
I can tell you on our mission assurance, internal investigation, we are targeting to have that
Mission
completed
unaccomplished.
within 60 days. There's also an external investigation that is going to be taking place. There are a number of Office of Inspector General investigations as well, and we are working in concert. And then, of course,
Oh,
there's
yeah,
the
didn't they-
Department of Justice.
Isn't the Office of the Inspector General supposed to be like an uninvolved third party that's going to be doing oversight on this? I hope.
FBI criminal
Because
investigation.
fuck the
Chair
FBI,
recognizes Mr.
Mayorkas, fuck
Ocasio-Cortez
all
from New
them.
York.
Thank you.
In my
Mr.
opinion, they're
Chairman.
all corrupt.
Director Cheadle, respectfully, what you
Oh
had just laid out
God!
about
Oh God! This was worth the price of admission. Here comes the brain trust of the House of Representatives, AOC. And don't try and talk to AOC about, having to work nights, weekends, holidays, etc. Because just like myself, she used to be a bartender right before she somehow landed this gig. Oh God, this dumb bitch.
60 days. We are currently in the midst of a
He reminds me so much
of an
a family
especially
member's ex-girlfriend. It's like
concentrated presidential
almost looking
campaign
at
in the moment.
a mirror image.
That is also paired with,
Oh,
of course,
AOC girl, what are you doing? Are you out partying with the squad a little too much? Girl, you got some bags going on under here. Kind of like Betty. I don't know if politics is agreeing with you, girl. I mean, woo, you weren't carrying those bags under your eyes when you started here.
elections happening across the
I can't
country
stand her.
are happening in about 100 days. So the notion of a report coming out in 60 days when the threat environment is so high in the United States, irrespective of party.
Incidentally, I heard this morning that in this hearing, as a matter of fact, that we are at the highest threat level since 9/11. Do you remember when we used to have the colors? We're at red.
Is not acceptable. And I think it's very important to understand that. This is not theater. This is not about jockeying. This is about the safety of some of the most highly targeted and valued targets internationally and domestically in the United States of America. So the idea that a report will be finalized in 60 days, let alone
And it won't be.
prior to any actionable
She's pulling 60 days out of her
decisions
ass
that
and
would
she
be
doesn't know what
made
else
is
to say.
simply not acceptable. It has been 10
I'm sorry you
days since
feel
the
that way,
assassination attempt
AOC,
on
but
former president of
I
the United
don't really give a
States,
shit.
regardless
As
of
you
party.
can tell by my
There
defiant
need to
manner
be
sitting
answers.
here all morning.
Again, this party, this committee, this is not a moment of theater. We have to make policy decisions and we have to make them now. We do. And that may be and that may require legislation. That may require policy that we must pass in the immediate
How about
term. And
replacing the
without
head of the
that,
Secret Service? That
we
might
are
be a
flying
good
blind.
place to start.
So the lack of answers and the lack of report is just simply not
Although
something
Joe's
that we
got
can
nothing to
accept
lose
here.
now. I don't know why you could strong arm him into
Director
firing her.
Cheadle, is there a standard perimeter that the Secret Service establishes around an event, or are those perimeters
part of
independently
the
determined per
site
event and scenario?
plan.
There is no standard. Every event and every venue is different and treated as such.
So each event has a different perimeter that is established depending on the logistics of that event. Now,
In the perimeter.
you established earlier that the building upon which the shooter operated from was outside of that established perimeter, correct, for the Butler, Pennsylvania event?
It was outside of our secure perimeter, yes.
Now, that building was, I believe, 500. How far away was that building from the president?
It was approximately 200 yards.
200 yards. Now, the individual used an AR-15
The
in
assassin.
order
Oh
to,
God, here we go. Gun control.
act out his assassination attempt. An AR-15 has a range of about 400 to 600 yards. My question is, why does the Secret Service perimeter, why is the Secret Service protective perimeter shorter than one of the most popular semi-automatic weapons in the United States?
There are a number of weapons out there
Wow,
with a
she
number of
actually
ranges.
asked a good
Again,
question.
an advance was completed. The determination of the perimeter, I'm not going to speak to specifics, but there are a number of factors that are taken
Yeah, why start
into
now?
account
It's only
when we
been
determine our
200
perimeter.
hours. I mean,
Some of it has to do with terrain, some of it has to do with buildings, some of it has to do with assets and resources that are available.
And so what I'm hearing is
Hi,
that
Gen
a
X to
perimeter
the
was
seventh
not
power.
established outdoors
Welcome.
in an outdoor venue that would prevent an AR-15, which is one of the most common weapons used
Hi,
in mass
Willis
shootings,
son. How are you?
from being able to be within the range of Secret Service protection.
A perimeter was established, and even though there were buildings that were outside of that perimeter, it wasn't just that building. There were a number of buildings in the area, and there was overwatch that was created to help mitigate some of those buildings.
Respectfully, Dr. Cheadle, as well, as a person
What?
who has experienced
She's a doctor?
an enormous amount of threat
Obviously, she's not a medical doctor. She's got a PhD. Oh God, that's interesting. AOC, fuck her. I don't know why you are using that honorific with her, because this is not an educational setting. And I'm married to a man with a PhD who, by all rights, could be called Dr. Crimes and Fashion. In my husband's words, he said, the only way I would ever, or as far as he's concerned, if you insist on being called doctor because you have a PhD outside of teaching, you're just a pretentious asshole. That's what he said. Yeah, my husband would never. Oh my God. I think even if he was teaching, I don't think he would want anybody calling him Dr. Crimes and Fashion. Like when they raise their hand, Dr. Crimes and Fashion, can I ask a question? He'd say, please just call me Professor whatever, Professor Crimes and Fashion. So to be calling this bitch a doctor, oh please. I don't give a shit if she's got a PhD. I think we need to look into where she got her doctorate.
incidents, including incidents that have never been reported publicly. There is a common pattern that happens here, whether it's Secret Service, FBI, Capitol Police, local departments. After a critical security
shit
failure,
happens,
we often hear there will be an
and we never
independent
find out why.
investigation. That independent investigation gets set
Damn,
up.
AOC,
Usually the
she's
expectation is
good
between
with
2 to
points.
3 months after the incident, and then nothing really occurs from there.
Welcome to
The report
government.
is usually not satisfactory to the questions that are usually being raised here. And most importantly, corrective action is rarely taken. If I were to state anything that I think is profoundly important, is that we need to have answers to the public. Ideally, I would encourage you and the agency to be more forthright with the members that still have yet to have their questioning.
Well, she's
because
not
the
going to be,
public
so next.
deserves to have full confidence, and the stakes
We
are
don't.
too high. the violence that could break out in this political moment, regardless of party, in the event of someone getting hurt, constitutes a national security threat to the entire country. Thank you, and I yield back.
Could I go back to something you
Yes,
said?
please,
Oh,
feel
she
free,
wants
Director.
to answer
Yeah, but if I
something.
could just speak to something you said at the outset when you started your questioning.
Oh, this is interesting.
I want to assure you and everyone on this committee that I'm not waiting for a report to take action. We have been conducting analysis.
Excuse me?
All along, and
You're
we have
only
been,
waiting on a
adding
report to
additional
answer every fucking question you've been asked, but not to take action. Well, how can you take action if you can't comment and answer questions for 3,000 hours now? Because you're waiting on reports. Well, how can you take action if you don't have all the facts in front of you?
features to our security details since this incident occurred.
Well, how
And
are you doing that
I'd
if
hope
you don't know
can
what went
highlight
wrong?
and illuminate what some of those
Oh,
are.
because you do know
in the
exactly
event
what
of-
went wrong.
Of other members questioning as well.
You're just not
Very
willing
good.
to fill us in. Okay.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Biggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I request unanimous consent for that photo to go into the official record.
Without objection to ordered.
Thank you, Director. Your agency has a no-fail mission, and on Saturday, July 13th, your
failed.
agency spectacularly failed. The failure resulted in the death of Corey Comprador and serious injury to two other rally attendees, David Dutch and James Copenhaver, besides the injuries to President Trump. It is unfathomable that a 20-year-old on the radar of Secret Service and local law enforcement before President Trump went on stage was able to climb onto the roof of a building with a rifle and fire off multiple rounds before he was neutralized.
Well, he
Mr.
was
Crooks
outside the,
acting
the
alone?
perimeter of.
Again, I would
whatever
have
the
to
hell
refer
she
you to
said.
the FBI's investigation.
Was he just a lone
back to
gunman?
the FBI.
I would have to refer you to the FBI's investigation for motive.
What did the Technical Services Division determine was going
I'll
to be
give
the
her
event
that one.
perimeter?
That one I'll give her. I
Those are
don't
questions that we
know.
are-
Besides the fact that he wanted to kill people, I would tend to believe that they're probably not 100% clear on what the motive was.
Asking?
Aside from just wanting to kill
And
people.
we're-
That's
you're
what
sitting here
mentally
today.
ill fucking whack
Come on,
jobs
Director.
want to do.
Everybody said this. You knew you're going to be asked that question
Some of
because
them.
it's been asked multiple times. So this is an easy one.
No
What
easy
did they
questions for
determine was
her.
going to be the event
No.
perimeter? So you should know that. I mean, this is not, gee, I got to wait till someone else tells me. What was it?
Again, I don't want to
I'll
speak to
I'll
specifics
refer you to
of
the FBI.
event
Okay,
that
this,
took place.
this is a specific.
I understand.
This is a
No, I
specific that
clearly
you
don't.
ought to know. As someone who said the buck
does.
stops with me, I'm going to stay in my job. I'm going to give the answers to the American people. And I know what happened.
And I'm going to investigate
except You're
myself.
not going to tell us.
And something
You're not
tells
gonna
me
tell
I'm
the
going to
American
find
people.
myself,
And you yourself
you know,
said
pretty
in
much
an interview
blameless.
that foments this notion of conspiracy theories. Guess what? When you sit here and repeatedly tell people, hey, I have to wait, as
Yeah.
it frustrated everybody on this committee, guess what?
How do you think we feel?
It undermines your credibility
Yes, it does.
and whether you're really going to get to it. So I'm going to ask you again. What did the Technical
Save your
Service
breath.
Division determine was going to be the event perimeter?
I'll defer to
We
the
are still gathering
FBI.
reports. We are interviewing
You,
individuals.
you know what it is, though. No, you're just not
When
going to
I,
tell us,
when
right?
I have
Does,
those
of course.
details,
Cut
I
her
will
off
most
at the
certainly
knees.
share those.
Was the gun
Don't let her
already on the
fucking
roof, or did the
spin her
shooter
own
carry
narrative.
the gun up with him?
I do not have that information.
You
at
are
this time.
full of shit.
Well, when was the last sweep of that roof done prior to the rally?
I do not have that information at this time.
So, how
So
many
basically, you're
holds-
just
I mean,
completely
so-
feckless,
so
like your
most of us
boss,
here have
Joe
been
Biden.
in events,
Noted.
and Secret Service has been there. There's been security, and I can't tell you how many times we've,
mean,
we've
I
said
could do
there's
a
going to be
better job than
security
her.
hold right here. So we're going to wait.
I don't know shit about
and we
any of
wait
it.
to 1 or 2 or 3 2 or 3 minutes, and yet we're hearing from you apparently that there were no holds in place. So ever in
Do
instituted.
you know
here with
how much
President-
good it would have done her to get up here? And listen, I understand there are absolutely legitimate questions that she should not answer or cannot answer. But I would say those are maybe 25% of what's been asked, and that's being generous. It would have done her so much good to just have a little contrition. And I don't mean in her bullshit, prepared remarks ahead of time. Oh, my heart goes out to, and I'm so, so sorry to the family of blah, 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 the man who died, the other two. But come up here, show some real contrition, and be as forthright and honest as you can. And that would have gone, I believe, a long way for her. But instead, she's done the exact opposite. And I think she looks worse than she did before she kept her yapper shut and was running away from senators trying to ask her questions.
Trump's
She's
going
a
on stage.
disgrace.
And you
And
said,
the fucking hubris it takes to say, I'm not resigning, I'm staying in my job. Well, bitch, that has yet to be determined.
and this is, I think, connected with this, you said they hadn't adjudicated the shooter to be a threat. He was adjudicated to be a suspicious person, even though we've got some dynamic video that Mr. Krishnamurthy put on the video for us. So I guess my question for you is, and I think you answered this, I just want to see if you're consistent with what you said about an hour and a half ago. What do you do if a suspicious person is identified by the agency?
So at a number of our events, it is not unusual.
Suspicious does
I know
not
it's not unusual.
equate
What
to
do
a
you do?
threat. Yeah, we got
Those
that.
individuals that are identified as suspicious,
Mhm.
we will send teams out
Did-
to.
was a
loc-
team sent out here then?
There were teams that were sent to identify and interview that individual.
Oh,
They
well,
were
that's
sent to interview the
interesting.
individual who's scampered up in camo on top of a roof within 130 yards of his target. And did your team get there? When did your team get there to conduct that interview?
After the
I
fact
don't
would
have
be
the
my guess.
details on the timeline. It is my.
Oh, you're full of shit.
If you did
You are
send,
full of shit.
if they did send a team,
Who
and they're gonna interview
dispatches
him,
the team?
and you described that earlier as an investigation. Why
Because
didn't they
those
put
are
security-
resources. And I'm sure she's got to worry about budget constraints because, she's already down. She needs more employees, blah, blah, blah. This lady's fucking unbelievable.
hold on
Unbelievable.
President Trump going on stage at that rally?
At a number of our protective sites, there are suspicious
This protected
individuals that are
site.
identified.
I don't care. We
all
don't
the
care about
time.
other ones. This
It
one
doesn't
is
necessarily
what we're talking
mean
about.
that they constitute a
A
threat.
threat. We
Of
know.
course not. But here
Oh,
you
Jesus.
got a guy scampering up the side of a building on top of a roof. It's identified to you, and you said you sent a team there.
If I was questioning her, the two of
you
us
can't
would be
answer that.
rolling
And this
around
gets
on the
to one
floor,
of my finer
pulling each
points,
other's hair out
Mr.
by the time this
Chairman,
is
if I
over.
can make it. And that is, we can
This
have
lady's
these
fucking
kind of
infuriating.
interview sessions, 5 minutes, everybody gets a kiss at the pig, 5 minutes.
And you're the
and
pig,
she gets
ma'am.
to stonewall us, not deliver answers. So we say, okay, we're going to put together a congressional committee, a blue ribbon committee. Same crap will happen.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
am calling,
Well.
and I'll support that, but I will tell you this, I am calling on the speaker to give us and put together a truly independent commission of qualified former Secret Service agencies, presidential and VIP protective services people who can
So a special
actually
prosecutor.
conduct this kind of investigation
Oh, like
and
what
give
was
us real
his
answers, because
name?
I don't think you're
When
going to
they
give us those answers.
impeached Trump,
You should
what
have
was
come
that guy's
today
name?
ready to give us answers. I call upon you to resign
Oh, I
today.
can't remember.
Today. And I
Yeah.
also would say,
Yesterday.
I've got a bunch of UC requests, if I can go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Proceed with the request.
Thank you. I apologize. It might,
That's all right, go ahead.
it might take a
Very
moment.
important.
So Anthony Guglielmi, the Secret Service spokesman. welcome him.
Resign.
Without objection, so ordered.
Article, U.S. Secret Service says it previously denied Trump requests for additional resources, New York Times reports.
Without objection, so ordered.
Secret Service says it denied earlier Trump requests for more federal resources.
Without objection, so ordered.
Secret Service acknowledges
Until
denying
we
some
did-
past requests by Trump's campaign for tighter security.
Without objection, so ordered.
Preliminary findings by Senator Ron Johnson and his committee.
Without objection, so ordered.
Articles entitled, Notice Anything Different About Trump's Secret Service Detailed. Next, former Biden official corrects herself after saying Dems
Oh,
must turn their
God.
fire on
Well,
Donald Trump to beat
It's
him.
been 3 hours and 15 minutes. And as much as I have loved doing this, I'm all about this. I love to yell at fucking incompetent, stupid people from the comfort of my office or my couch, both. Either one's fine. This is more fun though. What is tomorrow is Tuesday. Okay, I have a girlfriend coming over tomorrow, so I won't be able to do anything tomorrow. Actually, I think the rest of the week, that's why I came in here because I think I have something. Oh, wait. Thursday, I have a hair appointment. Thank God. I think I have something Wednesday. I'm still waiting to find out, but I think Friday I'm wide open. So, depending on how long this goes on, I would love to finish this, but you know what they say about old news. But I'm gonna keep up with it, and I would love to finish this. I actually, oh look, I even pulled up the U.S. Secret Service budget review for the fiscal year 2023. It is 188 pages. Oh, and let's see, are there line items? Oh, yes, there are definitely line items. Okay, well, I might just peruse that and see where her salary might be. Okay, it's going to end soon. And do we think today is it? Did everybody get a chance to grill that bitch? I feel relieved that I got to say a lot of what I had to say to her. I can't believe I sat up here with no eyeliner on. Actually, you know what? My eyes look bigger when I do not put liner on them. So, all right. This was fun. Yeah, I think her salary, wasn't it 187 or 180? Whatever it is, it's a lot of money. She's getting paid far too much to sit back and wait on reports and blah blah blah. She's full of shit. And I hope that people thank you, Mint Mama. I hope that people will not let this go. She needs to be fired because she's incompetent and she's a fucking liar. And I could go on, but I think I've gone on long enough. So I'm going to bid you adieu. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. And, depending what happens here, I would like to think that I could rest my voice for a couple hours, drink a lot of hot tea, and then come back in here and finish this tonight. I'd say that's probably highly unlikely because I'm the more the day goes on, I'm starting to feel pretty cruddy. So, but you never know. I guess stranger things have happened. If not, I will, I'll see you guys either Wednesday or Thursday. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. All right, pussycats. Till we meet again. All right, Bob.